SAFM, setting the nationwide agenda daily. 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 SAFM, setting the nationwide agenda daily.
Tank Ember has found electricity demand is growing around the world, but the growth in solar and wind was so strong it met 100% of the extra demand. The BBC's Justin Rowlett has more.
The new data from the think tank shows the world is moving at different speeds. Developing countries are now leading the charge, with China's dominance of the global clean tech industry unchallenged. It added more solar and wind capacity than the rest of the world combined in the first half of this year. India also saw renewables outpace electricity demand. But in some developed countries, notably the US and EU, electricity demand grew faster than clean energy output, leading to a rise in coal and gas generation.
Recapping the top story, the Teddy Bear Foundation, represented by Section 27, has confirmed it has approached the High Court in Pretoria to seek action against key government departments. It alleges that they've neglected the National Child Protection Register. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM's award-winning drama department presents to you the radio drama series Skyline.
Press to cockpit, medical emergency now.
Cabin crew to your stations.
Where the skies promise adventure, but behind the cabin doors, untold secrets are found.
He's signing off on cheap parts they installed like it's nothing.
Catch the radio drama series every Saturday at 9 p.m. on SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. This October month, SAFM focuses on cybersecurity awareness. As we live more of our lives online, staying safe in the digital world has never been more important. From spotting cyber threats to protecting your personal data, SAFM brings you the conversations that empower you to stay secure. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
If you look at South Africa now, and you look at the composite of our politics, and you ask the question, who is we the people? I think the people of South Africa are beginning to take the space to themselves. Ordinary people. They are saying that we are tired of being told by the department of so-and-so as to how we should constitute ourselves as we the people and how our values are being pushed in that particular department. We will go and protest. And I know this is a challenge. My view is that when people are taken to the street and they are working outside the formal processes of engagement, remember, the funny part about South Africa is that you have elections today. The majority party will win by 62%. 3 days down the line, you've got a protest. What does that mean? It means to me, and it's a challenge I want to throw out, this idea of we the people. It says that people are saying, yes, we have formal institutions, but they do not fully encompass our value. We will get out of these formal institutions and protest and build our own spaces. And through those spaces, we will then claim that this is what represents us, we the people.
That is Dr. Ralph Mateja, South African political analyst. It's 10 after 9 o'clock. A very good morning to all of you that have tuned into the show this morning. Welcome to the Talking Point. My name is Cathy Mohlahlana, and I'll be with you until midday as we lead conversations that move us. Looking forward to being in conversation with you. We've had just a couple of days to try and continue with normal programming. And have the open line. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to last maybe as long as we would have anticipated, because today the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee that has been tasked with investigating the allegations raised by the KZN Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, it begins its work. And I know this is such an important aspect of all of these issues that we're dealing with as a country right now in relation to the criminal justice system. So here's what we'll do. We'll take just a portion of those proceedings within the first hour. We won't stay there too long because they're still pretty much setting the scene for the day. And in the second hour of the show, we're going to continue with Brian Hirsch, talking finance with Brian Hirsch. Part of why that's also important is because we have received quite a number of complaints and issues in relation to the Government Employee Fund, right? The GEPF. And so, Government Employee Pension Fund, that is. So we have finally managed to get somebody from the fund to come on air. Brian has been working on that tirelessly behind the scenes. And so we're going to then be dealing with the GEPF in the second hour of the show, in as far as talking finance is concerned. And so I really would urge you that those of our listeners that have been having ongoing challenges with GEPF, I know many of you tell us that when you send emails, you call the call centers, you simply do not get the responses that you need. And unfortunately, we can confirm that experience because that has been our experience too, that when we reach out to the GEPF, it has been very difficult even to get to this point that we're at today. So while we're grateful that we're finally able to have them on, it's taken far too long because they deal with clients on a day-to-day basis. They should be responding to the issues that you have been raising a lot more timeously. So that's what we'll deal with in the second hour of the show. And then within the 11 o'clock hour, we'll then go live to Parliament and listen to those proceedings of the ad hoc committee that is now also conducting its own investigation. And they describe this as the first phase of Parliament's inquiry, which will be to call up all of these different witnesses. Other witnesses that we are expecting to still be called before Parliament include General Fani Masemola, General Shadrack Sibia, the former Minister of Police, Mr. Beki Cele, the acting Minister of Police, Feroz Kachalia, and of course, the Minister of Police, Senzo Mchunu, who's been placed on special leave. So it seems that these are processes that are going to run simultaneously in as far as the work of the Madlanga Commission is concerned and the work of the inquiry is concerned. So I guess what is happening in Parliament perhaps might have a stronger standing, at least from a point of accountability implementation, because that report ultimately will be tabled before Parliament. Parliament then can make decisions about what should happen. Whereas we know that generally when it comes to commissions of inquiry, there is this big question about the non-binding nature of some of their recommendations and findings, and what that then means for completing the course of accountability where those who are implicated in wrongdoing are concerned. So that's how we'll run the affairs of the show for today. Now that we've got the housekeeping out of the way, we'll get into the open line. I'll be taking your calls on 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial, 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107. I also just want to acknowledge that yesterday we received so many calls and voice notes throughout the show from the teacher assistants and just the challenges that they have been facing when it comes to the payment of their stipends. So we have noted all of that. There was an update issued by the Minister of Basic Education. You would have also heard the interview with the Labour Minister. So I guess now it's really about waiting to see what kind of solutions are going to be put on the table. But nonetheless, we are collecting all of those concerns, and we have put in requests for the Department of Basic Education to come on air and at least be able to explain from its end what went wrong. So we'll get into the open line. It's your national roundtable. Remember, you get to set the agenda. 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial. 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107.
So you thought you were building a business? In this economy? Good luck. But day by day, somehow it grew. You became payroll, procurement, PR, and pressure valve. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. What's that saying again? What doesn't kill your business makes it stronger? Or at least it should be that. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore. It's who you are. And you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
Power, land, loyalty, blood. In the heart of Montana, the fight for the Dutton Ranch is far from over. Betrayals cut deep, enemies close in, and every choice could be their last. Yellowstone, Season 4, where family is everything and nothing is off limits. Every Tuesday, starting September 2nd at 7 p.m, only on S3. S3, open up.
SAFM's Meeting Point invites you to join Koketso Sachane for a roundtable dialogue on the crime and gangsterism plaguing the Cape Flats. Join us at the SABC1's M1 studios in Cape Town, where Koketso, together with guests, unpack the crisis and asks how we can make our communities safer. Tune in to the Meeting Point with Koketso Sachane on Wednesday, the 8th of October, as we unpack this critical conversation. To be part of the studio audience, email info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
All right, let's get straight then into our open line this morning. I'm going to start in KZN today. Errol, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, sir. You want to talk about the formation of a new political party?
Yeah, right. You know, I just got to say, you and your team always make this a great show. I love listening to you guys.
Thank you, Errol. We appreciate that.
No, not a problem. Yeah, I mean, you know, the three parties that are going to combine, the Build One, the Mzansi, and the, what's the other one, the Action SA.
No, not Action SA. It's BOSA, it's Rise Mzansi, and it's the Good Party.
And the Good Party, yeah, yes. I made a mistake there. Anyway, for the life of me, I can't see them succeeding, even as a coalition. Look, I could be wrong, but that's my take. I mean, the total number of seats they won in the last election, the total number of seats altogether didn't come near what the DA or the MK party won. And there are only three parties that will do well in the next election, and that's the same, the ANC, the DA, and the MK party. So, look, I could be wrong, but I just can't see them.
Errol, you don't think that, because when one looks at their positioning, there's a strong sense that these are individuals that are targeting in particular the middle class, and I think the black middle class, because we also know that there is a part of the voting population that more and more is not showing up to vote on voting day, right? They're staying at home. Do you not think that the coming together of these three leaders, who I guess have a track record in their own right, maybe would convince the middle class urban elites to go out and vote?
Yeah, sorry, that could be true. But there's also a lot of middle-class people that didn't want to vote for parties like the DA or the MK or the ANC. That just withheld their vote. Maybe they will change their mind next time.
Okay.
But look, I could be wrong, but that's my take.
Yeah, all right. Errol, fair enough. If it's based on the numbers out of the previous election, I think you have every right to form that opinion. And what is the recipe, man? I'm sure all of these political parties ask themselves, can we just get the recipe for what it is we need to do to win elections? And you're probably going to see, especially next year in the local government elections, some very significant shifts in how people are voting, because the decay of delivery at a local level is at the state now where it's pushing people to look at all sorts of different options, right? But why is it that there's this huge leadership vacuum, and all of these candidates that look like they should be good candidates, on paper they read as good candidates, but people don't vote for them? Why? What is it about? Why are they unattractive to you as the voter? Deborah, you are in Memo. Good morning.
Hello, Oscar, how are you?
Good, Deborah.
Yes, good. I just want to talk about Senzo Mchunu. I love the ANC, and I understand that he's the senior member of the ANC. But let us be honest, Cathy. The man, he must step aside without involving any legal, intellectual justification that is innocent up until proven guilty. But let us be realistic. This thing has put the party into disrepute, this allegation. I think that Senzo Mchunu joined the ANC not for self-gain, but at this point in time, the ANC is in a crisis. He must step aside. I think that it should be a good move. Without the president said, Senzo Mchunu, please shift. No. Himself, he must visit his conscience, his self-introspection. He must step aside. These allegations are very serious.
We don't have that culture. And so one thinks that people don't even think about that as an option, because we just have not cultivated it as a culture.
No, but Cathy, Senzo Mchunu, he joined the ANC not for self-gain. He must step aside. He must show us. He's a senior leader of the ANC. He's a senior comrade. These allegations against him are very serious. Let us be honest. If we want to keep the ANC and the motion of the ANC renewal, he must step aside. He must show us that he's a leader of the ANC, not for himself or his family. He must step aside.
Okay.
These allegations are very serious.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tebogo, I think that would be him and so many others, right? Him and
Yes.
so many others, unfortunately. But it's just not something that people see as an option available to them. They're going to stay in their positions for as long as possible, regardless of the reputational damage or the kind of disrepute that it brings the organization into. There are people the world over that have resigned over less, but just because their integrity is in question and they are in a leadership position, they understand the weight of that. They understand the weight of that. But in our country, it looks like people don't mind. They can go to court, be accused of all sorts of charges in the court of law, and still expect to continue in leadership like, well, nothing happened. And we need to ask ourselves as a society why we have enabled that kind of culture. So I see that at the ad hoc committee, they're going through the terms of reference for how this committee is going to be doing its work. We'll go there shortly, and then after the 9:30 headlines, we'll continue with the open line.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
Will be called during the first phase of this hearing. The committee will decide and identify witnesses to be called in the second phase of these hearings. In regard to the evidence given by the witnesses, we draw attention to Section 16 of the Powers and Privileges Act, which requires witnesses called before the committee to answer fully and satisfactorily to all questions lawfully put to them, to produce any document they are required to produce, notwithstanding that the answer to any question or the document could incriminate them or expose them to criminal or civil proceedings or damages. Witnesses are, however, protected in that the evidence given under oath or affirmation before this committee may not be used against any witness in any court or place outside Parliament, except in criminal proceedings concerning a charge of perjury or a charge relating to the evidence or documents required in these proceedings. Thank you very much, Honourable Chair, Honourable Members. That's our opening statement. Could I now call General Mkhwanazi as our first witness and ask the Honourable Chair to administer the oath?
Chair. Honourable Malema. Thank you very much, Chairperson. And good morning, colleagues and General. I don't understand on which basis do you want General Mkhwanazi to take an oath? Because before us, we have no statement of General Mkhwanazi. We have a supplementary statement. Supplementing what? Because he must first depose to us a statement, and if there is anything to be supplemented, it should be done so. The statement we have is a statement he disposed to the Commission. We have said to this legal team here, time and again, that we are not a junior committee of the Commission. There is no statement of General Mkhwanazi before us. There is a statement of General Mkhwanazi to the Commission. And therefore, in the absence of his statement to the ad hoc committee of Parliament, on which basis do you want him to take an oath? You will know, Chair, that a supplementary statement should be supplementing the original affidavit, if you wish to say so. There is no such. And therefore, General Mkhwanazi is not proper before us. And this legal team has failed us because in the deliberation, we made it very clear, if colleagues are honest with each other, we repeatedly said we cannot use the statement of the Commission. We are not a junior of the Commission. We have nothing to do with what the Commission is doing. We are a Parliament, a Committee of Parliament. Now you want to use a material that is being used and sourced by a commission established by the executive. in this separate arm of the state. It is wrong, it is unconstitutional. We have to do things properly. And the proper way is, there must be an original statement to us as an ad hoc committee, and if they so wish to be a supplementary statement, let it be. I even said, it doesn't matter, Chair, in that meeting. I said, we can even say to General Mkhwanazi, the first pages of that commission statement, where the statement is directed to a commission, they can be amended to say the ad hoc committee of parliament, and we have something that is directed to us, which will become our property, which will go into the archives of parliament as General Mkhwanazi's statement to parliament. In the history of this parliament, when our children and grandchildren and children of children are going to be looking for General Mkhwanazi's statement to parliament, they won't find it in the archives. So it's not proper before us. And the legal team is to be blamed, not himself. Thanks.
Advocate Arendse, can you please clarify that aspect?
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and in response to Honourable Malema. There is, with respect, a statement before this committee. The statement has now been sworn by General Mkhwanazi. We call it a supplementary statement because much of the factual background was covered extensively by the evidence leaders in the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, and that is the 3 volumes you have before you, or 3.1 and 3.2, which contains General Mkhwanazi's statement and the annexes to that statement. At the Madlanga Commission, General Mkhwanazi gave evidence under oath, although his statement was not declared under oath. Judge Madlanga administered the oath, and he gave his evidence under oath. And it would therefore be quite surprising that his evidence before us today would differ materially from the evidence that he has already given before the Madlanga Commission. I acknowledge what Honourable Malema is saying about us not playing second fiddle to the Commission, as it were. But the fact of the matter is this. After Parliament decided to appoint this ad hoc committee and the appointment of ourselves was finalized, the Madlanga Commission had also been proclaimed by the President, and their evidence leaders got hold of Mkhwanazi first, and they started to take a statement from him, which they did, I think, General Mkhwanazi, over a period of some 2 weeks. You will recall, Honourable Chair, that I engaged with the evidence leaders for the Madlanga Commission. You engaged with the chairperson, Justice Madlanga, in relation to when General Mkhwanazi could become available to us. Given your terms of reference, you will recall this committee insisted that this hearing can only commence by us calling General Mkhwanazi first. So for a period of some 3 weeks or more, we were constrained or prevented from engaging with General Mkhwanazi to take a statement from him because he was unavailable. He explained his unavailability to you, Honourable Chair, and to the committee, and asked to be excused. As soon as he concluded his evidence before the Madlanga Commission, He indicated to us that he was now available to be consulted, and which we've done. Our consultation covers the evidence and the statement that he gave at the Matlanga Commission. We've attempted in this supplementary statement to avoid repetition. Much of what General Mkhwanazi has been heard by honourable members of this committee, by members of the public and the media. In fact, his statement was his redacted statement was also made available to the media. So that is the approach that we've adopted, Honourable Chair, to this inquiry. What honourable members, Honourable Chair, what you will find different to what was done in the Matlanga Commission is that there'll be a lot more engagement with General Mkhwanazi in relation to the issues that forms part of the terms of reference of this committee and not necessarily before the Matlanga Commission. And General Mkhwanazi has been alerted to that, and we've consulted him about it. And different versions will be put to him as opposed to what was the case at the Matlanga Commission. So it is not only appropriate but necessary that we've incorporated the Matlanga statement as part of his statement before this committee, so that the record will indeed in years to come show that incorporated as part of General Mkhwanazi's statement to this committee is also the statement that he made to the Matlanga Commission. Thank you, Chair.
No, before I take the hands, I think what the honourable member wants to know is whether the sole statement that General Mkhwanazi made at the Matlanga Commission, does it enjoy precedence over this? Because the understanding is that it is supposed to be an annexure to the statement that he has made with yourselves.
No, Honourable Chair. This statement enjoys precedence, but it incorporates by reference the Matlanga Commission inquiry, and there are aspects in the statement where we will
cross-reference
what he said in the
Matlanga. I hear what you are saying. What he's trying to say is that we have two institutions of government, Parliament and the Executive. And then Parliament has appointed an ad hoc committee. We have more or less a common list of witnesses. So when a witness comes here, a witness deposits a sworn statement to us in accordance with our terms of reference. And then when we come to the proceedings, we then say, this witness who is appearing before us has also appeared elsewhere. Your statement as the ad hoc committee is this one, but for ease of understanding, there is this other statement which you would have deposited elsewhere. For the interest of members, you can also read it. It's not compulsory. But if you want to enrich your understanding, you can also read this other statement. That is what the honourable member wants to know. And his problem is that the word supplementary is used when this statement is supposed to be an original statement before Parliament, because it is not a document of another arm of government. It's a document of this arm of government, which is which is Parliament. So what we then have to understand between yourself and General Mkhwanazi is the ownership of this document. That this is the document which I myself as General Mkhwanazi had deposited before you as Parliament. And for the purpose of these proceedings, I can confirm that yes, this is the statement I made with yourselves. If there is any other statement made elsewhere, you can also go through it, it's available. But for the purpose of these proceedings, I confirm that the document before you is the document that I deposited with yourselves. Can we have that understanding?
Well, there's no better person to answer that, Honorable Chair, than General Mkhwanazi himself. He can, hence I asked you to administer the oath. I will ask him whether this is an original statement that is made to this body.
Yes, let me take the hands. Before I take you, Oscar, let me go back to Honorable Malema, because he's the one who raised this point. He may want to make follow-ups, and then the list will be in this order. It will be Honorable Malema, it will be Honorable Skosana, Honorable Nombalo, Honorable Ngola, and then Honorable Mwango.
No, thanks, Chair. I think the evidence leader, and this is so unfair on General Mkhwanazi. If we had a way, we should have just asked him to step out so that we can debate this. The senior counsel can't say that. Can't say the first statement to us is supplementary statement. That coming from a senior counsel. That the first statement you make is called supplementary statement. What law are you teaching people? It's unacceptable, and we can't help them, Chair, to cure it here in front of cameras. He has to go back and do the right thing. Because even if General Mkhwanazi says, this is my statement to Parliament, but what is written on this thing is supplementary statement. You can't change it. It's here before us. You are going to call General Mkhwanazi before this committee without an original statement. Where have you ever had a situation where you are told the first statement to be disposed is supplementary statement? If we're to ask the senior counsel, where's the original statement? He won't produce it.
All right, so there we go. That's how things are starting off at that ad hoc committee, really around administrative issues, right? One wonders if this is something that could not have been dealt with before the committee set to do its work, but an important issue nonetheless being raised by MP of the EFF, Julius Malema. We'll take a break and then we're back with the open line.
This October month, SFM shines a light on mental health awareness. This month, we bring you conversations that break the stigma, encourage care, and provide strategies to protect your mental well-being. Because it's okay not to be okay. And together, we can build a healthier tomorrow. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Hi everyone, my name is Itumeleng Kune, SABC Sport Football Analyst. When I feel down and I listen to gospel, it gives me motivation. I'm a person who loves all genres. If I was a chef, my favorite meal that I would prepare would be pap, cabbage, meaty bones, with a bit of acha on the side. My favorite language is Portuguese. Bom dia, como está? Estou bem. What I like about SABC Sport is they give you the platform and the permission to be yourself and speak any language.
Catch the ever-passionate Itumeleng Kune's analysis of Bola Leju on match days, live on Match
Duma, proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
The National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
I'm looking at the numbers. The meeting that you had spoke about 3.4 billion rands, but I see the MEC for Finance talks about 3.4 just being short-term. In fact, the real need is 7 billion rands. So how do you get yourself into that position and how do you get out of it?
Because of the budget cuts that took place in the previous years, and the other factor, which was the late conclusion of the current negotiations during this administration time, which also exerted pressure. That is why we are where we are.
KZN Premier Tami in Tulia.
Ashraf Gada on SAFM.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
The Provincial Commissioner General Mohlahlana. We are going to be having a different view, here at the ad hoc committee. Not what we are told today by the senior counsel. And I think that I will support my colleague on that. Perhaps it would be proper that General Mohlahlana is excused. Us as committee members discuss this matter, because really, we are letting the country again down. It's like we don't know what we are doing. We know where we come from in this country. We had a case where somebody was sentenced without trial, before standing before the judge. Today we are finding ourselves in this again, where we are told that the statement was done, the oath was taken in the Madlanga Commission. It's unacceptable. And I think we should not go that route. My appeal to you, Chair, and to members is that perhaps can we take an adjournment on this matter? I think it will be proper. Otherwise, we'll be continuing doing the wrong thing. We are not a subcommittee of Madlanga Commission. Whatever happened at Madlanga Commission happened at that commission, not here. I thank you, Chair.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Chair. Chair, let me start by sharing my deepest discontent as well, that we are starting on a very bad note. From the word go, we are messing things up. And I think we shouldn't allow that if we want to enjoy the respect of South Africans. Chair, we deliberated on this, and I remember we did not only deliberate on this during our ad hoc committee meetings, even during a joint committee meeting between the Portfolio Committee on Justice and the Portfolio Committee on Police, which gave birth to this committee. We debated the role that should be played by Parliament. And we said the doctrine of separation of powers is very clear on the role that should be played in terms of the constitutional mandate by each state or by each organ of the state. But today, we find ourselves in a situation where we are being misled by the technical team or by the legal advisors of this ad hoc committee, because if you say we must rely on the statement of the Madlanga Commission, you are simply subverting the constitutional responsibility of Parliament in this regard. And let's avoid this thing of mentioning Madlanga. Madlanga is a decision of the executive, not a decision of Parliament. We are doing our own, we are initiating our own process here. So we're not going to do any copy and paste kind of work and said, no, because this one has been done by Madlanga. Because if we are doing that, in future, we are going to be told that we can't investigate some of the issues here in the terms of reference because they were investigated by the Madlanga Commission. So, Chairperson, our view is very simple on this one. This must be amended. We are not going to accept this document as it is termed as a supplementary document. It must be an original statement by Lieutenant and Nhlanhla General Mohlahlana, because even the terms of reference, they are not similar. They are slightly different. So we can't be subjected to a process some of us that do not even have a confidence in. Because some of us don't have confidence in the Commission of Inquiry. We don't have confidence. Now you want to take the work of that commission and impose it here. We're not going to allow that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, you will recall that the Senior Council did confirm to us in the last ad hoc committee meeting that there will be an original statement for the work of the ad hoc committee, and the Commission of Inquiry statement will be just an attachment. So when I saw that the statement itself is addressed to the chair of the ad hoc committee, I thought that's what we have agreed about. So when I saw supplementary, I thought that the general is supplementing the statement of the 6th of July. So hence, I didn't notice what Honorable Malema has noticed. I think, Chair, it's just unfortunate, and we must plead with our evidence leaders to avoid making such mistakes so that we don't tamper with the credibility of the process itself. So in trying to mitigate the situation, maybe, Chair, because it's supposed to be sworn statement instead of supplementary statement. So I would want to request that we adjourn for 15 minutes and that defect be cured. Then we take the general to be administered in terms of oath. Then we proceed, Chair. Thank you very much.
Honorable Mwango.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning, colleagues, and Honorable General Mkhwanazi, you are not Honorable Member yet. Yes, I would like Honorable Chairperson to support the proposal that we adjourn this meeting for 15 minutes or so and correct these distortions that are in here, because the letter written to you, Honorable Chairperson, which is attached, which is part of Volume 1, actually reads, please see under cover hereof the witness statement of Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. It doesn't talk about a supplementary. But on the following page, the following page actually starts off by saying supplementary witness statement of General Mkhwanazi. So clearly there is a distortion here. So I think this needs to be corrected, but it cannot be corrected in front of the cameras, but we need to adjourn and then get these things corrected so that we can resume our job.
Okay, let's do like this so that I have listened to what you have said, and you are very right. The two institutions are separate. Every document that comes here before Parliament must be an original document before the eyes of Parliament. But maybe what we must do is that before we adjourn to correct the typo, I'm going to ask respectfully General Mkhwanazi to confirm that the statement that has been made, I know that procedure.
On a point of order, Chair. On a point of order.
Yeah, can I finish what I'm saying?
On a point of order, Chair.
When you call the point of order.
No, I insist on a point of order. We are about to mess up. On a point of order.
Okay, point of order taken.
There is no General Mkhwanazi before this committee. He's not here until we've satisfied his appearance before us. It is procedurally wrong. Because once you talk to him, the first thing he must do, the first step he must do is to take an oath. Is to take an oath. Then, only then, he's before us. In the absence of the oath, let's release him. He's not part of this mess. He's a witness called to come before us after he was told he met all the requirements. You can't ask him anything. The only time we are going to interact with him, because if you ask him something, I'm also bound to ask him something, because me and you enjoy the same rights. And then the whole House is going to start asking him questions. He has not administered an oath of, it's not taken an oath. So please, Chair, we are all agreed. Let's release him. And I don't know if 15 minutes is realistic, because he's going to take up issues with the legal team as well when they arrive there. So I don't know, but to engage General Mkhwanazi is actually out of order, because he's not before us. He has to first take, he's not a member of parliament. He has to first take an oath, and then from there we can engage him.
Yeah. No, that is a valid point, Honorable Member, and I 100% agree with you that he is not properly appearing before us. And before we ask him any question, he must have taken an oath with us. And I will stand by your advice, because I wanted to save, and I understand that procedurally I would have been wrong, so that we must know whether we are going to proceed or we are not going to proceed. Because for us to proceed is only if we can know whether what is contained in this document that is before us is what he's going to agree with. That yes, this is what I deposited before you, and then the corrections which are made must be made, and then we reconvene and proceed. But for now, I agree with Honorable Malema that we will not be able to ask him any question until he has taken a statement with us. So we are going to break now. We are going to break a senior council and determine whether the mistakes that are on the document are correctable. Yes. Let me take senior counsel, Honorable Mvadonval.
If I may just remind the honourable members of the events leading up to this hearing. After the National Assembly appointed this committee, the Madlanga Commission had also been established. Central to this committee's terms of reference were the allegations made by General Mkhwanazi. When we at some point suggested or proposed that perhaps we should make a start with some or other witness, so that at least we can get the hearings going, the committee, I think near unanimously, said no, we must first call General Mkhwanazi. But General Mkhwanazi became unavailable and wrote to you in that regard, and Judge Madlanga had also spoken to you and the evidence leaders to me to say, unfortunately, General Mkhwanazi is engaged initially in statement taking, and subsequently that he would be appearing before them for 4 or 5 days. And that made General Mkhwanazi unavailable. You, Chair, in an exchange of letters with Judge Madlanga, agreed that we will, by way of cooperation and mutual respect, work together and try and save some time and unnecessary costs by exchanging documents and witness statements, etc., without either of the two parties, because of the separation of powers, being bound by what the other had either drafted by way of a documents or any evidence that was given. To the extent that it has been said or it's inferred that this committee and we are bound by the Madlanga statement or the evidence that General Mkhwanazi gave before that.
All right, so it seems to be off to quite a bumpy start with the ad hoc committee hearing in Parliament in as far as this inquiry into the allegations made by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi are concerned. Big issue is the foundational document, which is the statement that General Mkhwanazi has provided before the committee, and it's standing, right? You heard Advocate Arendse describing it as a supplementary affidavit because Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi had already deposed an affidavit before the Madlanga Commission, and you then had interventions from the EFF's Julius Malema, who objected to that, saying that the parliamentary committee is not a subcommittee of the Madlanga Commission and that it needs its own statement that is deposed under oath by Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi so that it can have its own legal standing within the work that this inquiry is going to do. And it's a point that has been supported by the other members within this committee. So what we're looking at now is likely an adjournment. We don't know for how long that is going to be while they try and sort out what is largely an administrative issue. One has to ask, right, when the documents in preparation for today were being shared and you had then this question around a supplementary statement that was deposed, why were these questions not asked? Because unfortunately, it just makes Parliament look unprepared for really what is a very, very crucial and important process. So we'll take the latest news update. When we come back, we're going to continue finance with Brian Hirsch, and today we're in conversation with the Government Employee Pension Fund.
In our top stories, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi set to appear before Parliament's ad hoc committee, and Teddy Bear Foundation takes government to court over child protection failures. Good morning. Parliament's ad hoc committee set up to investigate the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's allegations started off on an explosive note. This after EFF leader Julius Malema took exception to Mkhwanazi taking an oath. Malema told the evidence leader, Advocate Norman Arendse, that the committee was not part of the Madlanga Commission. Therefore, a statement, not a supplementary one, should be deposed to Parliament.
I don't understand on which basis do you want General Mkhwanazi to take an oath, because before us we have no statement of General Mkhwanazi. We have a supplementary statement. Supplementing what? Because he must first depose to us a statement, and if there is anything to be supplemented, it should be done so. The statement we have is a statement he disposed to the Commission. We have said to this legal team, time and again, that we are not a junior committee of the Commission.
The October leg of the Judicial Service Commission interviews have started in Sandton, Johannesburg. The body has started with interviews to fill 2 vacancies in the highest court in the land, the Constitutional Court. Approximately 7 candidates comprising judges, advocates and an academic will be interviewed. A blame game has erupted in government over the delayed payment of stipends for more than 150,000 education assistants. Basic Education Minister Siviwe Hwahube yesterday expressed deep concern over delays in stipend payments to education assistants employed through the Basic Education Employment Initiative. The Employment and Labour Department insists that it cannot release funds until the Basic Education Department submits complete attendance registers in line with strict funding agreements. Jomo Sibiya is the Deputy Minister of Labour and Employment.
It's regrettable and unfortunate that we are here today and we have to discuss such a matter in a manner that we have to discuss it, which is not progressive and assisting I'm not going to go into the infighting or finger-pointing game for now, because I think what is important is for us to deal with the situation at hand and make sure that the teacher assistants who haven't been paid until this day are paid urgently and quickly. Accountability must take place. People must account on what happened.
The Teddy Bear Foundation, represented by Section 27, has confirmed it has approached the High Court in Pretoria to seek action against key government departments. It alleges that they've neglected the National Child Protection Register. The case stems from a 2022 incident in which a caretaker raped a learner in the Northwest, and authorities reportedly failed to hold the perpetrator accountable. Tendai Mafoma is the senior legal researcher at Section 27.
Over the past 2 years or more, Section 27 has been engaging with various departments who are responsible for maintaining and implementing the National Child Protection Register. And what we have found, particularly with the provincial departments of education, is that they're not vetting their educators against the Child Protection Register. And this is a legal requirement that all the provincial departments of education should vet them against the register, current employees and potential employees, to make sure that they're not on the register. Because if they are not deemed suitable to work near children, meaning that they shouldn't be in schools.
Further afield, and finally, the French President Emmanuel Macron has given his outgoing Prime Minister 48 hours in which to reach a deal to form a government. This is after Sébastien Lecornu resigned suddenly after 26 days in office. His shock resignation announcement drove stocks and the euro sharply lower. The BBC's Cathy Mohlahlana has the details.
France's reputation has been flagging, at least in EU circles, for quite some time now, because of its finances, but also international disquiet at growing support for the hard right and left here. President Macron had promised the French and his European partners he'd turn all that around. As the Eurozone's second biggest economy, what happens in France affects the credibility of the currency as a whole. But he failed. The resignation of his fifth Prime Minister in 2 years was just the most recent humiliation for Macronisme, once heralded as Mr. Macron's recipe for France's success.
Recapping the top story, Parliament's ad hoc committee set up to investigate KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's allegations started off on an explosive note this after the EFF leader Julius Malema took exception to Mkhwanazi taking an oath. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Channel your inner feel-good on Expresso this October, from big global moments like the G20 summit to how it all plays out right here at home.
We are keeping it real this Mental Health Awareness Month with conversations that lift and inspire. And of course, all the good stuff that you love, delicious food, fashion trends, and everything in between.
Wake up with the Feel Good Breakfast Show, Expresso, weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. on S3.
Great news, travelers! FlySafair is now flying between Cape Town and Hoedspruit 3 times a week. So, whether you want to chase the Big Five in Kruger, soak up the views at God's Window, or wind through the beautiful panorama route, Hoedspruit is the perfect launchpad to some of SA's amazing natural treasures. Ready to go from coastlines to canyons in just a few clicks? Book flights now at flysafair.co.za from just 1,570 Rand. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
SAFM's Meeting Point invites you to join Koketso Sachane for a roundtable dialogue on the crime and gangsterism plaguing the Cape Flats. Join us at the SABC1's M1 studios in Cape Town, where Koketso, together with guests, unpack the crisis and asks how we can make our communities safer. Tune in to the Meeting Point with Koketso Sachane on Wednesday, the 8th of October, as we unpack this critical conversation. To be part of the studio audience, email info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, you're listening to The Talking Point. It's 8 after 10 o'clock. Welcome to the second hour of the show. So, many of you wondering, well, what is happening now? And as far as that ad hoc committee inquiry is concerned, they have taken an adjournment. We don't know how long it's going to be, but we will rejoin that committee at 11 o'clock once we're done with our finance segment. But certainly how this inquiry is beginning its work is not in the best of lights, right? There's a level of unpreparedness that unfortunately is on full display for the nation to see. And one hopes that they are going to be able to correct that very quickly and be able to continue with the very important work that they have to do. So for now, in this hour, we are going to be continuing with our finance segment. It is a Tuesday. Brian Hirsch is already in studio, so we'll get into that shortly. Before we do, let's take some of your WhatsApp voice notes.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Cathy, for the first time, I'm not a member of any political party, man. But let's give credit when it's due. Julius Malema is cooking them. He's showing them. He's showing people who went to school how to run things, how shame on judiciary. No wonder, who's the chairperson of this judiciary? No wonder why things are not okay in this country. How shame. Who's advising them, though?
Okay. I knew right from the onset when they appointed this ANC chairperson of the ad hoc committee that this thing is going to be a mess up. Here we are. Why didn't he notice all this original statement and the secondary one? Yeah, achapa.
Hi, Cathy and the SA listeners. This is KG and Stacks from Eastern Cape. The debate that is taking place before General Mkhwanazi is really affirming my advice that there was no need of that ad hoc committee. It's just a waste of time and views.
Hi, Cathy and the SFM listener. Cathy, as long as there's a Julius Malema on that ad hoc or maybe whatever the parliamentary discipline, nothing is going to come right there. Everything will be like a fuss. You know, he's not even going to bring any solution. Instead, things will concentrating on Malema and things will never even come right. I mean, he's supposed to excuse himself, or they're supposed to say to him, you don't have to be here, because he will just like stick into something which is unnecessarily.
Cathy Mohlahlana is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SFM Radio. Talking Finance with Brian Hirsch, making sense of your finance.
All right, Brian Hirsch, aren't we glad we're not the ones in the hot seat in Parliament today?
Yeah.
We have our ducks in a row, don't we?
Yeah, and I love it when I get the smile from you when you play the callers.
Okay, so today, Brian, it's been a long time coming. Finally, we're going to be able to have a conversation with a representative from the Government Employee Pension Fund. Thank you so much for all the work that you've put into making sure that this interview actually happens. Let me welcome then onto the show on that note Ephraim Kekana, who is the Director for Client Relations Management at the GEPF. Ephraim, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to our listeners across the country.
And good morning to you, Ephraim. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Hi, Brian.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just to put some context to this, I've been running this radio program for many years, And there are many callers who call me off air, ask for some help about investment policies, claims not paid, all different things. And over the years, I've been very fortunate to be able to help them. The power of SAFM behind me helps to make sure that I can get to anyone whenever possible and help try and solve a problem. But I've been unable to help anyone when it comes to government employee pension funds. I try and call, I hold on for a long time, I send emails, and it's really very frustrating. I know the government employee pension fund has got the greatest number of members compared to any other scheme in South Africa. I know there's an enormous amount of work being done, and I think that in the main, I get a lot fewer complaints if you think about the numbers. However, the first question to you is, are you aware that there are delays, that there are maybe unnecessary delays, call centres, and when members call in? And I'd love your comments on this particular point.
Yes, Brian. Look, in short, yes, I am aware of the delays in the administration of pension benefits. And I can attribute that not necessarily to any other issues, except to say we have factors that are contributing to that. One of them is the issue of data. You know, we experience sometimes members prior to retirement changing their banking details or contacts, or claims that are submitted either late or incorrect. So those are some of the things that are contributing, especially on death cases. We should be having all beneficiaries to our members as and when that changes. But unfortunately, our members are not complying, not all of them do, that we should have their beneficiaries already on our database, so that when ultimately they pass on, we know who to pay. The large part of time we spend trying to locate beneficiaries, identify them, and there are also family feuds involved, you know, when members pass on without them supplying us with a nomination of beneficiaries. But yes, we have that. But also, quite lately, you know, the Revenue Amendment Act that was passed last year was another issue that caused our delay, because we had to configure our system. And I think this was the worst one that happened to us, because we had to configure our system to adapt to the new set of rules. So yes, at some point we had to go manual, because our systems did not was not able to talk to the current state of affairs in terms of rule changes.
Ephraim, one of the big issues is, you know, the concept on retirement, the member's pension, and then in the event of that member dying, the ongoing benefit to the spouse. And when the spouse then dies, then obviously the 5-year period, what happens is the fund comes to... Sorry,
okay, all right.
Me.
So sorry, Brian. Yeah. Let me maybe just give you a moment to recover. So Ibrahim, just while we give Brian a moment, I mean, this issue that he started on around just the lack of communication and the poor communication from the GPF, what are you doing to fix it? Because surely even to you as an entity, it cannot be acceptable that this is what you are subjecting your clients to, clients who deserve that information, by the way.
Look, Cathy, I wouldn't agree with you in terms of poor communication. I think our footprint and our service channels are quite vast. You know, and I will not go into an exhaustive list of our service channels. But first we have self-service app, the GPF app, and from our over 1.2 million members, I think some over 1 million already, between 900,000 and 1 million have already registered on this app. It's one of the most efficient way to communicate with us. We have a call center which operates during office hours, but now we have extended to be 24/7 on IVR in terms of request of certain letters, text documents, benefit statements, and all of those things. But we are also present in the social media on our official Facebook page. We are communicating with our members on the GPF website where we post information. There are pamphlets that we are sending on email as well as physically to the post office. So there's a wide range of initiatives from our side. Yeah. But yes, I think Brian raised an important question to say the magnitude of this fund is something else also to consider. But I think on our side, we are doing quite well in terms of reaching out.
That notwithstanding, Infrahim, the multiple channels notwithstanding, we wouldn't be having this conversation if, in fact, everything was as smooth as you are saying. That very call center line is the one that Brian has consistently been following up on to no luck, to no avail. And so have the other members of the GPF who've needed assistance. So I think in this instance, perhaps the app is working better, but the call line, the call center line is a terrible reference because we haven't had any luck with that call center at all.
As I'm saying, okay, maybe let me correct that one. I never asserted that we are running a smooth and efficient communication system or platform. That's not what I said. However, all I'm saying is that we have a wide range of channels that are open to our members. Coming back to the call center, our call center is receiving between 10 and 15,000 calls on a normal day. And you will agree that's quite a bit too much. We are busy with internal processes. For instance, I've just mentioned that we went 24/7 on IVR. So members can still access our call center, even if there won't be any human interaction on the other side. IVR will assist members through the process. I've personally used that, and it's most efficient. I requested a benefit statement, and I was able to receive that in a minute.
I must say that's a big change, 24/7 use of that line. But as you say, 10 to 15,000 callers a day. I mean, if you divide that by an 8-hour day, you're talking something like 1,500 an hour.
Yes, Brian.
It's amazing. So let me ask you one of the main things that I do get from individuals. They're concerned about the rules, and obviously the rules are the rules, not going to change. If a spouse dies and the beneficiary or someone receiving a pension dies, the spouse then receives a percentage of that pension. If they die after 5 years, the pension stops. So there's a concern for many people to understand that when they've contributed to a pension fund for 30 or 40 years, that after the short period of time it ends. So many members have decided to rather move away from the GEPF. By the way, I think the GEPF fund is an excellent fund. I think taking a pension and also under a defined benefit fund, getting an ongoing increase, I think it's a great fund. Other than that situation where when both spouses are gone, then the pension ends. The question that so many people ask is, during that time of that period, what actually happens at the end of 5 years when both spouses are dead?
Thank you for the compliment, Brian. Look, indeed, the rules can change, but there is a process to change those rules. But what we have right now can be outlined as follows. The main thing that I can say, the member's actuarial value in the pension fund will in all probabilities be paid out to such member in the event of any form of exit, whether they die, whether they retire, whether they transfer, you can name them. in all probabilities, the members' actuarial value will leave the fund to those members. That's the first point. Now, the second point, spouse pension, it's not a contributory benefit. So our members are not contributing anything from their salaries towards a spouse pension. It is an extra to have benefit from the pension fund, given the investment returns that we're having on the fund. This cannot be taken away. However, it's exclusive to the spouse as defined in our rules. But let me quickly take you there. Let's use death, for instance. If a member dies and is survived by dependents, we will pay the actuarial value as a lump sum or gratuity divided to dependents if there's more than one. In the event there's no dependent, we will check on the nomination, and if there's a nomination, we'll pay according to the nomination. However, in the event there's no nomination, there's no dependents, the actuarial amount, the value of the member in the pension fund will be paid out to the estate. So, for members that qualify for spouse pension, we say, or our rules actually state that benefit is exclusive to the spouse. So it is incorrect to say members are leaving the fund, for instance, as a result of that, because members are not really contributing for this benefit. It's coming as an additional to our offerings to our members. So the 5-year period that you touched on, basically when a member goes on retirement and they qualify for gratuity, quickly I can say we will divide the actuarial value into 3 equal portions. The 1/3 will be paid out as a gratuity, and the 2/3 will be divided by 60 to make 60 installments, which means we will be able to pay that money out to the member. It's the member's actuarial value, it's part of the member's actuarial value. We'll pay that out over 60 months. Now, should a member or that pensioner pass on within that period of 5 years, the balance will be paid out because that's the member's actuarial value. However, we say if a member lives beyond the 5 years, we will continue to pay that particular pensioner until they pass on. Yeah. And okay, when they pass on, yeah, the pension goes to the spouse, but that's not a benefit that members are contributing for.
And maybe, Ephraim, just for our listeners, because many of them wouldn't understand actuarial calculations, let me just summarize that very simply. The member makes a contribution, and the actuaries calculate how much the employer, namely the government, has to contribute to create a pension for them based on a fixed formula. In other words, a defined contribution fund is member contribution, employer contribution, what's the value? Here you're providing a guarantee based on the number of years of service. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Brian.
Okay. So let me ask you this question. You made one comment, and that was members must ensure that their personal information is accurate and up to date. And I understand that. If you can't find members, if you can't find bank accounts, if their nomination, because as you'll agree, the beneficiary is not like a life policy where you nominate someone and it's automatically paid there. It is incumbent on the fund to ascertain who are dependents of that individual under Section 37C. Is that correct, Ephraim?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So it's the job of the trustees, and that's why often, particularly where there's a second marriage or children from out of wedlock or other, it's incumbent on the fund to actually find all those dependents. What do you suggest members do to ensure that their personal information is accurate and up to date?
I'm in the forefront of campaigns and events that we're running, and I normally put in a dipstick to check how many members at any event have they completed the nomination form. And Brian, you'll be disappointed. Our members, in their own way, and I'm saying this carefully, not to paint everyone the same. They are abdicating their responsibilities towards their families. Some of the people just don't care.
Yeah, Ephraim, it's exactly the same in South Africa. It's about the lackadaisical attempt by individuals to have a will. They just don't take. And for those who are listening and passing this on to family members who are members of the GEPF, please take note of this. It's important that you provide all the information. And before we go for a break, maybe Cathy, we take a break. You can answer this afterwards. Ephraim, when should members start informing the fund that they intend to either early retire or alternatively retire? Because and you can answer this afterwards, why is there a delay when members retire to actually receive their benefits, their pension benefits, and maybe their lump sum cash? Cathy, we'll hold that over till the break. After the break.
Absolutely, Brian. So we'll continue the conversation with Ephraim Kekana. He's with the GEPF. He's the Director for Client Relations Management. We'll take the latest 10:30 news headlines shortly. And then on the other side of that, we of course are also going to be making time to take your calls, your questions for Ephraim. The number to dial this morning is 086 000 2032. That's 086 000 2032. And then on the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107. That's where we'll be taking your questions and comments for Ephraim as we continue with the program. For now, let's hand you over to the news desk.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines, Parliament's ad hoc committee set up to investigate KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's allegations has got off on an explosive note. This after EFF leader Julius Malema took exception to Mkhwanazi taking an oath. The case of businessman Vusumuzi Cathy Mohlahlana and 4 others has been postponed to the 11th of next month to allow the National Prosecuting Authority to add charges. The 5 accused made a brief appearance in the Alexandra Magistrates Court in Johannesburg. And the Uppington Regional Court in the Northern Cape has sentenced a 32-year-old man to 20 years imprisonment for killing his mother. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Well, taking a look at your markets this morning, the rand is currently trading at 17 rand 22 to the dollar, 23 rand 14 to the pound, and 20 rand 12 to the euro. Markets in Asia are higher at the closing bell. The JSE weekend mid-morning trade, and markets in Europe mixed this hour. Gold is trading at $3,949, platinum $1,608 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $65.61 a barrel.
I don't love waking up before the sunrise. I don't love wearing a school uniform. But I do love learning. I do love saving my mom money on transport and uniforms while I still get a good education. I do love UCT Online High School because I do love my future. Apply online before 28 November.
Let's rewind 6 years, when Twitter was still Twitter, not a letter of the alphabet. TikTok was simply the sound your clock made. And Zoom just meant enlarging a picture. So it makes you wonder, what will the next 6 years bring? Hino trucks now come standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty, covering everything from pistons to gears. So although a lot can change in 6 years, our warranty promise won't. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Cathy Mohlahlana is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
Talking Finance with Brian Hirsch, making sense of your finance.
Well, the focus of our finance segment this morning is with the Government Employee Pension Fund, the GEPF. It's been a long time coming. We've been trying to get and bring them on for quite some time. So we're glad that it's at least finally happening. Ephraim Gekana is the Director for Client Relations Management at the GEPF. And Brian, you asked a very important question before we went to the headlines.
Yep. Two points. One, when should a member start informing the fund about either early retirement or date of retirement? And why is there a delay? What is happening between leaving the company or leaving the government employee fund and now waiting to receive the cash and benefits thereafter? Ephraim, appreciate your comments.
Thank you, Brian. Look, the pension journey, it's a lifelong journey. You know, it's as long as the career itself. So when a member assumes employment in government, they become our member, and at that point they already get in their service conditions. At that point, they know already when they are going to retire because everything is put in their conditions of service. Now, there's also some level of abdication here. You know, our members are not taking control of their own affairs in terms of pensions, and they remove their focus. You know, look, you have this employee A who's working for public works or any other department for that matter. They will wait until it's 2 weeks for the HR to contact them. Look, Mr. So-and-so, you are due for retirement in 2 weeks. That's not how it's supposed to be working. Members should know when they are going on retirement. And with us as the pension fund, we're saying retirement doesn't come as a surprise. It's a planned event. So if we receive documents at least 3 months before the member goes out on pension, before their exit date, we are happy because we are able to work on the documents and clear all the errors if they are, or clear all the concerns before the date of exit. And Brian, I'm a member of the Basic Education Ministers Headcom Forum. I'm presenting our performance to the minister there. We are able to prove there is a huge percentage, maybe not so huge, but up to 15% of the cases that we are paying within 3 days of members exiting, especially on pension. So it's possible, but if members follow process of notice, if they're going on a resignation or retirement, that can help us a lot. We can prove there are members that are happy with us and are getting pension benefits within 3 days of them exiting the pension fund. Now, the other issue is clean and timely claims. We need to receive error-free claims and on time. The issue that we're focusing on right now is that, you know, members and employers are often confusing the date of employment as the admission date to the pension fund. These two are not the same. You can be employed at a specific date and not contribute to a pension fund. You might contribute at a later stage. So when members find these disparities, they get confused, and that creates delays. So those are some of the things, but also the issue of secrecy over dependence. You know, it's common knowledge there are dependents or children born out of wedlocks, and for them to be exposed, they end up, you know, creating some domestic issues, and it's always seen to be safer to keep them under wraps. And when members exit or pass on, these dependents come up. People are getting informed, people are getting wiser every day, and these are the cause for delays, some of the cause of delays.
Okay, Ephraim, 2 points you've made which are very valid. The first is In a membership statement 1 year before retirement, is there any notification to that member that this is the year you're retiring? Please let us have all the documentation timelessly. And you mentioned 3 months prior. Is that possible to put into a membership statement or not?
Yes. We're making provisions for retirement forms to be submitted at least 3 months in time at any given time. For instance, at the present moment, I checked our database of submitted claims. Over 1,000 claims are actually too early to pay. So they are running through our system and going through to wait at the payment section, waiting for the last 7 days for them to be confirmed. So, yes, it is possible for members to be able to submit claims at least 3 months before the time.
Then one last question before we hand it over to our callers. Ephraim, why is government encouraging individuals to take early retirement? I mean, there's no doubt about it. People want to retire early, and they don't really understand the costs of longevity and inflation. So if you contribute for a fewer years and you then take early retirement, it means you're going to be running out of money much earlier than you actually thought. I mean, we're all living that much longer. Just your comment on that?
Brian, look, we are a pension fund. All we do is just to administer these members' benefits according to rules. So whatever the government as the employer is doing within the employment sector, it's not of us. And I may not provide a view on that because mine is just to execute. What happens between the employer and the employees, it's actually not concerning me as such, except to say when that decision is made, I must make sure that I put systems and processes in place to be able to accommodate that and make the transition as smooth and painless as possible.
Thank you for that. We're going to hand over to some questions we've got. I'm handing back to Cathy.
All right. Let's bring in some of our listeners. Remember, you can also reach us on 086 000 2032 and on the WhatsApp voice note line. Send those voice notes and text messages to 0614 104 107. John, you're out in Roodepoort. Good morning.
Good morning, Kate. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, sir. John, I'm going to ask you and the rest of our listeners, callers who are on the line, let's try and keep our questions as clear as possible and as short as possible because we do have quite a lot of questions coming through for Ephraim.
Okay. Yes, I just want to ask the gentleman, if a member has worked 30 or 40 years and then he retires after 6 months, maybe he dies, and then they pay the spouse. So they pay the spouse maybe 6 months, the spouse also dies. So they've got children who are over 18 years. What will happen? They will pay the remaining money to the children, or what will happen if they are over 18 years? Hello?
Ephraim?
Can I come in?
Yes,
Fine.
go ahead.
Yes. I've just explained now. The critical point here is between where our main pensioner and the spouse die. When our pensioner dies, we will pay the remaining, as explained earlier, the remaining 5-year balance over to the spouse. So 3 months later, the spouse dies. Probably there is still some funds left in her account, which is part of our benefits, and will be administered privately somewhere there. But as said earlier, the spouse pension it's an added benefit. It's a non-contributory benefit from us. It will stop. It's exclusive to the spouse.
Now it means they want to pay the children this money.
As I understand the question, they will, John, because there's 60 months money set aside for the spouse, and if the spouse has only received money after 3 months, they will continue to pay to the remaining dependents for 57 months. Is that right, Ephraim?
we will pay it as a lump sum, as a graduate.
As a lump sum, but equal to
Yes.
the amount that's
Yes.
set aside for the 60 months,
Yes.
less than
Yes.
what's been paid. Hope that
For
helps you.
argument's sake, yes, for clarity's sake, suppose the pensioner passes on after 3 months or on the 3rd month. Now, again, for argument's sake, say the pensioner was earning 10,000 rand a month, meaning when we take that 10,000 times 60 months, we're talking 600,000, and the pensioner has already received 30,000. We will take 600,000 minus the 30,000 and pay out the 570 as gratuity, as a lump sum to the spouse. And the spouse will immediately, starting from the following month, start earning the spouse pension, which is exclusive to her.
All right, John, I hope that has assisted. Elijah, you in Woodbank. Good morning.
Morning. How are you, kids?
Doing well,
Hello.
Elijah. Go for it.
Yes. Sorry, man, I'm not good in English, but I will try. Cathy, my brother she passed away 2013, and he have 2 children, in one mother, and other children was outside children, So after he passed away, he said they give us a papers to sign, how many children he have. Then I come, I give all information. After they take the papers, after 2 weeks, they phone me, they call me again, they say, no, this other child that is not to that other book. You see, now I'm wondering whose children is that one. Then they explain me the name and surname, whatever. I see, no, it's my children. It was not his children. It's my child, is a daughter. So they say, also he must get some money. You see, okay, we fill up the papers, we give them. After 2 months, we go there. They say, no, it was not his children. They didn't want to give the money. They say, no, it's not his children. I'm from Witbank, Pretoria, I think twice in Pretoria, one time in Joburg. Till now, from 2013, I've tried all my best. Until we have tried last year, maybe some other people, they can help us most people in TVs, because we see they help other people, but we didn't come right until now. I don't know what we must do, where we must go.
So Elijah, then your daughter, as you explained it, she never received any monies from the GPF.
Daughter.
Hey?
His child. They say it was not his child.
Yes. But
yes, I was in the office.
Was she a dependent? Why did they think she qualified in the first place?
I don't know, because they say because I was a true, because he took my children. He stayed with her in Bronx Street there. You see, before the children was small, the other one was small. My child was a little bit bigger than the other one, but we didn't know. He put them in his papers, in insurance, whatever that is. We didn't know. We know after he passed away, they call us. It's name. Other child is short. They say, which one is it?
Okay,
I wonder which one.
Sorry, Eliza, let me stop you there for a moment and let me help Ephraim. Ephraim, I think the question that we could have from many callers is, when it's not a normal situation, a normal retirement, a normal death, but a query that comes in over the last, in Elijah's case, 12 years, where does that get referred to? Because that's very different to investigate. And he made the comment twice to Pretoria, once to Johannesburg. Maybe just give us some guidelines of when there's that type of query, where does that get referred to?
Brian, I'll first assume this particular case to be sort of like a case specific to Elijah. And where possible, I can be given Elijah's contacts. I can reopen this matter with him on the side, and we can have a matter reviewed. But coming back to your question, we have in our rules a definition of a dependent and a child. For instance, for a child, we're looking at a biological child, and a formally adopted child. But a dependent in itself, children will qualify as dependents, but also there is what we call effectual dependent. So they will qualify. From what I understand, it could be that Elijah's daughter could have been effectual dependent on this. But I'll need to get to the file to verify the status of this particular case. It will be impossible to give, or to work on assumption on this one. But the definitions I've just given now.
But Ephraim, I'm trying to just qualify for many callers who have different specific problems. Can't have them all referred to you. Where would they go to under the GEP fund? Where would they go to get better understanding and clarify the many years that so many have waited for and they haven't been able to get clarity? So this is not just a normal question, a normal retirement, a normal death, a normal withdrawal. This is something on the... So is there special... is there where one can elevate this type of question outside of the call centre?
Yes, we, as I mentioned earlier on, we're running campaigns throughout the country, and our teams are going out to members, meeting them on one-on-one basis. So that's where we raise awareness, we educate our members. We have each roadshow or a roadshow per province every month throughout the country. But I think Elijah has been there because he has been within our facilities. All that should have happened was for him to actually try to escalate the matter, which probably he could have. And there's a possibility, I'm not saying that is the fact, there's a possibility that the explanation that was given to him might not have sat well with him, And that's what I experience most of the time. People will be saying, I don't understand, but actually understanding but not accepting the explanation. But yes, I'm willing to look into this matter.
You made the comment, elevate. Is there any site anywhere where people can go, which we call to elevate? I think of the medical aid industries. You've got the general call centre, and then you've got calls that are elevated. Is there any site people can go to, any address people can go to elevate? Because we could get enormous amount of, if we ran this program the whole day today, we'll get all people telling us about problems going back to all the different years. Elijah's went back to 2013. So is this the sort of thing that must go to the call centre, or can it get elevated to a different call centre or a different group of individuals?
All our working facilities throughout the country are headed by deputy directors, and those are senior or middle managers. They have the capability to deal with all the cases, and we are supported by our legal division. Where we are not certain, we take the matter over to legal for an opinion. Okay. But within all the facilities, there are different levels up to the level of a deputy director in charge of the working centres.
Where do they find these? Where do they find these individuals? Are they on your website? Is there a special aspect where it can be elevated on the website?
Our website and our Facebook page are listing all the working centres throughout the country, which is not a problem to, for instance, Elijah, because he's been to two of our facilities. But yes, for others, they visit our website. We have all working centres listed that exist within the country.
All right. Let's move on. Sibu, you're in Cape Town. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My question is more about the relationship between the GEPF and the various provincial departments. So basically, I have a story behind it, and this is a story of many people as well in the Eastern Cape. So my grandmother took an early pension due to illness, but she was close to retirement age. And she couldn't get her GEPF because the GEPF wouldn't release her pension before the Eastern Cape Department had paid out her gratuity. But and then which eventually led to her losing her house, right? And she wasn't just the first person that happened to, and that was around 2002, 2003. So looking at the just how painful and how much that impacted us and a lot of people, because after that there were a lot of them that they couldn't purchase back those houses; they would be sold on auction. Is with the relationship between the GEPF, is there that sort of condition before they pay out the pension? Does that still exist? And how many people are still falling victim towards the same kind of loss that my grandmother and her peers had to go through of losing their properties? And can that be sorted so that it doesn't happen anymore if it is still happening, where the GEPF payment is conditioned upon the administrative work of government agencies such as the Eastern Cape, which are corrupt? Because in addition to that, the Eastern Cape Department not only did they not pay on time, they also assured her that they had paid the bank, for the outstanding amount. So they paid her so little money from her gratuity after almost 40 years of working, only to find that payment was never initiated to the bank. Hence, her house was sold to the auction, and so many other people fell victim to that. And my second last question: would the GEPF be willing to revisit those cases if the relationship between them and those government agencies allows them to? Would they be willing to revisit those cases, or allow the victims to revisit those cases where people who lost their properties, who lost their lives because lives were destabilized because of that, where they investigate the circumstances that took place? Because paying for a house for almost 20 years and losing it all because the government is not paying you on time. And then the last question, Cathy, which is a very serious question: what is the GEPF doing about orphan abuse? I know of a child who was neglected after their father had passed away, who was a government employee, a government employee. And when the relatives realized that she is entitled to the GEPF, they all started fighting over her. And they then, took her, and then they were able to get the father's pension paid out to them. She is now 27 years, close to 20 to 30 years. I don't believe that she has touched even 10% of what she was entitled to from her father's pension.
Okay, Sibu, we're going to have to leave it there. Very important issues from Sibu. Ephraim?
Cathy, the situation, I'm focusing on the last part of the caller's comment. The situation could have been avoided with a nomination form. If a member completes a nomination form, we know who to pay, regardless of who comes forward. Incidentally, when our members die or when people die, they suddenly image quite a number of people. So everybody just loves you because now you are supposed to be inheriting, but these things can be avoided. Nomination form is the way to go. Now, the relationship with the departments, we have a good working relationship with all state departments. And I know I've personally had quite a number of cases escalated to me directly by the clients to say, I'm going out on this date, and I realize that my department has not submitted these documents to you yet, and I'm worried this is what might end up happening. We go there, we drive into the department, we demand those claim documents for them, and then we check them on site before we take them back to the GPA. There are some times where we hit against the hard surface, but we escalate. The higher we escalate, the more agency this gets. So some of these things can be avoided. Unfortunately, there are quite a number of issues. For instance, when one talks about the Eastern Cape, the data, the membership data there is not the best, and we are busy now with the process to cleaning that data, which can form part, because we inherited data from the old order, which was not really that clean or helpful. So this could be some of the factors that are delaying these particular situations. But where we pay late, okay.
And Ephraim, the question around reviewing some of these matters, because you can hear, obviously this is a family that is still grappling with the pain of having lost this property, and they would want to see what recourse is available to them.
Basically, I know where we can escalate this matter before they happen. I'm able to intervene, and I've done that several times with banks, to call the banks to issue them guarantees that there will be monies paid. That works better. But in terms of the fallback, in terms of compensation, I don't know of any except the one that are benefits and the interest that we're paying on late payments.
So basically, there's nothing that can be done to review.
Not that we have. Not that we have.
Let me bring in Bishop Kwenene in the Eastern Cape before we wrap things up.
Hello. I'm getting old. I'm afraid now. My first question is that I'm getting the pension. My wife passed away, and I was a teacher. Now, my first question, Kat, is that if I die, if I get married, I get another woman, will I lose my pension? That's my first question. Kathy?
Bishop Kwenene, you still want to get married. You still want to get married.
I'm 70 years, I'm afraid now. I'm getting old. I want a wife very soon. I'm looking for another child, man. I'm looking for another child. So now I'm afraid now.
At 70.
I've got 2 children, man. I need another child, man.
No.
So my first question
when are you going to raise that child?
Oh no, I'm going to get a lot of money, man, very soon. So my question is, Kathy, will they take away my pension? Some teachers they used to say that if you get married, they're going to lose it. That's my first question, Kathy.
Okay.
My second question is that because my daughter is about 28 years, but I still give her money. If I die, they will never benefit anything if I die.
Okay, let's get Ephraim to answer those questions quickly, please.
He goes, Kathy. How long has he been on pension?
From 2000.
2000.
My wife passed away in 1999. I think late 2000. She was a lady teacher.
Please proceed and get married. We will not stop your pension, sir.
Ephraim, I'm going to ask that we please just all hang 10. I have to take the latest news. We're going to have to continue in terms of the response to Bishop Kwenene after the latest 11 o'clock news.
Thank you, Cathy. On the top stories, committee investigating Mkhwanazi's allegations adjourns, and London police dismantle suspected cell phone smuggling gang. For SAFM News, I'm Ondalambana, and a very good morning. Parliament's ad hoc committee investigating KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has adjourned for a short break so that a proper witness statement can be provided. This happened after committee members took exception to the evidence leader, Advocate Norman Arendse, providing a statement. They said it was a copy of a statement from the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry when Mkhwanazi first testified. Parties agreed on a short adjournment to address the matter following heightened tensions. Soviet Likhanyane is the committee's chairperson.
What we should do is to adjourn. The instructions are very clear. Let's correct the statement. Our business is to allow the witness to make a presentation before us. And senior counsel, please help us. The witness is here. Please help us to have the witness making the presentations, which not me and you, which South Africans want to hear. Please, let's do this for the people of this country, and I have said we have agenda for that correction to happen. Thank you so much.
The case of businessman Vusimuzi Cathy Mohlahlana and 4 others has been postponed to the 11th of next month to allow the National Prosecuting Authority to add charges. The 5 accused made a brief appearance in the Alexandra Magistrates Court in Johannesburg. They are accusing of orchestrating the failed assassination of Mohlahlana's former partner, socialite Tebogo Tobejane, in October 2023. The accused also face charges of attempted murder and money laundering. NPA spokesperson Pindim Jonondwane.
You'd recall that on the previous occasion you indicated to court that you are still busy with the centralization process. There are 2 dockets, one from Pretoria and another from Littleton, that we want to centralize together with this matter. So that process is ongoing. The Director of Public Prosecutions in Pretoria gave consent for the 2 matters to be centralized, and thereafter forwarded the docket to the Office of the National Director of Public Prosecutions for further consideration.
The Appington Regional Court in the Northern Cape has sentenced a 32-year-old man to 20 years imprisonment for killing his mother. Clifford Kloot had stabbed his mother after an altercation in December last year. The National Prosecuting Authority's provincial spokesperson, Mujalifa Senokutswane, says the court has rejected Kloot's claim that he had acted in self-defense.
Kloot is accused of having stabbed his mother, Yvonne Kloot, to death after a dispute over his stepfather's clothes. The National Prosecuting Authority remains committed to ensuring that perpetrators of gender-based violence are held accountable and that justice is done without fear, favor, or prejudice.
The trial of farmer Zachariah Olivier and his employee William Musora is expected to continue in the High Court in Polokwane, Limpopo today. The trial was postponed yesterday after the defense requested an independent expert's analysis of ballistic exhibits. Olivier is accused of killing Maria Machado and Kudzain Ndlovu on his farm at Onvervacht in August last year. Batsiba Babua reports.
The trial has been put on schedule for the next 2 weeks. 22 witnesses are expected to take to the witness stand. Accused number 3, William Musora, is also on trial for defeating the ends of justice and the contravention of the Immigration Act. Meanwhile, former accused David, who had been charged in the matter for allegedly disposing the remains of Maria Machado and Kudzain Ndlovu inside a pigsty, has turned into a state witness. Batsiba Mabua, SABC News in Polokwane.
Police in London say they've dismantled an international gang that smuggled 40,000 stolen mobile phones to China. The Mayor Sadiq Khan has called in the biggest operation of its kind in Britain. Metropolitan Police Detective Sergeant Pamela Meschinka was involved in part of the operation.
We've identified and arrested an individual linked to mobile phone offences, namely targeting pickpockets that are operating currently within central part of London. So what we're doing is trying to disrupt these networks and bring these perpetrators to justice.
Recapping the top story, Parliament's ad hoc committee investigating KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's has adjourned for a short break so that a proper witness statement can be provided. I'm Undilambana for SFM News Headlines at 11:30.
SAFM's award-winning drama department presents to you the radio drama series Skyline.
Press that to cockpit medical emergency now.
Cabin crew to your stations.
Where the skies promise adventure, but behind the cabin doors, untold secrets are found.
He's signing off on cheap parts they installed like it's nothing.
Catch the radio drama series every Saturday at 9 p.m. on SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. all on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC.
Mzansi, have you bought your Powerball ticket for the mind-blowing 120 million rand estimated jackpot this Tuesday? Don't delay. Play Powerball for an estimated 120 million rand jackpot today for your chance at winning the big millions. Buy your ticket now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Panda Pusha Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday. Talking Finance with Brian Hirsch, making sense of your finance.
All right, just a slightly extended session of our finance conversation with Brian today. We've been hosting Ephraim Kekana, the Director of Client Relations Management at the Government Employee Pension Fund, and he's been taking questions from you as our listeners. So I think what we'll do maybe is try and see if we can maybe get an extra 5-8 minutes, and then we'll wrap this conversation up. So Ephraim, you were responding to the question from Bishop Gwenana, who retired in 2000 and was asking questions about whether or not
his wife must have passed on and he received the spouse's pension.
Yes, and he wants to know if he gets remarried, will he lose his pension benefit?
I don't think I got exactly what Brian was saying, but if my understanding is that the caller himself is a pensioner, is the main pensioner who lost a spouse before retirement. So his question is whether if he marries he'll lose his pension, or whether is he receiving spouse pension from the wife that was our member. Can we just get clarity on that?
His wife was a teacher.
Yes, they're both
and he's
teachers.
receiving a pension from his wife. And
okay.
And therefore, as long as he lives, he gets a pension.
Yeah. So it's not getting a pension in his own right as our pensioner, but it's coming from the spouse. No. In that case, still the pension will not stop. The spouse pension will not stop, but it will not be transferable to the new spouse.
Thank you.
And in terms of his daughter, the 28-year-old that he gives money to?
There won't be any. Actually, he's receiving benefits on us now. Remember, the member's actuarial value was paid out on her death over to him. So he's been on spouse pension since whenever. So when he dies, everything stops because he's on us. He's living on us now.
Okay.
Ephraim, let me just clarify. It wasn't physically paid over to him. It was set aside to pay a benefit to him.
What was set aside, Brian?
The amount of the actuarial valuation based on his late wife was set aside. It wasn't physically given to him in a lump sum.
It should have been. It should have been. When our member dies, we pay out their actuarial value to the surviving spouse, and we kick in the spouse pension for the surviving spouse. So the actuarial value is not set aside; it's been paid out on death.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I'm going to play some of the questions that our listeners have sent through via the voice note. We'll play one at a time. So Ephraim, once it's done playing, you can respond.
Okay.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Good morning, SAFM. Can you please ask your guest to explain the unexpired period of service? Because it is clearly defined in the job law, and also it is in terms of Rule 14.5.3. But I think it seems as if the contact center guys, they are clueless about this rule. Can he please explain it? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll use the clip to sort of provide training to our teams to empower them on this particular concept. Basically, the unexpired period refers loosely to a potential period. If a member is admitted to our pension fund, suppose the member has been appointed at a particular department and is supposed to be, we expect when members are admitted to remain with us until the age of 60. 60 becomes their retirement age. And so, say the member dies within 3 weeks of them assuming duty. When that happens, they're not even having a month of service. So you will realize that their benefits will just be a fraction of, basically, even at the time we might not even have received the contribution as such. So when we pay out the pension value, we look at the potential period the member would have worked from the date of death to a date of retirement. If a member dies at 57, the retirement age is 60, the unexpired period is 3 years. If the member dies at the age of 30 and the retirement age is 60, it means 30 is the unexpired period. Is the potential period the member would have worked or been in the fund had they not died. Basically, that's that.
All right. Thanks for that. We'll take one more voice note.
Good morning. As a public servant who's hoping to retire quite soon, the app doesn't allow you to update beneficiaries. So whilst there is an app and I am registered, it is not very usable and it is often offline. Allied to that is I'm unable to update my beneficiaries on that app. GEPF did come around for an open day and I went in and updated my beneficiary form, but it's very frustrating because it's still got my ex-husband's name on there, and so it doesn't tally with what's on the app. So, yeah, it is concerning.
All right. Ephraim?
Yes, the self-service app is up and running, but yes, quite often we experience some technicalities there. It should not be a long-standing issue, but where they pick up a problem, they are willing to come into our office to seek assistance or even complete the manual form and submit it to us. But we will always use the last nomination form completed. So the member should not be worried about the ex-spouse still appearing there. That will move off with time. But as long as she completed the nomination form, we are okay.
Ephraim, that doesn't sort of answer the question, because a lot of members can't get to a centre. And therefore, if they try and they can't make those changes, do you know what happens? They give up. They put it off for another day and then they don't do it. So I think if we've learnt anything from today's session, and really appreciate you having spent time with us and given us all these answers, it's to understand the frustration that members may feel, and we get the brunt of it. We get calls from them and I'm unable to answer them. So maybe you can take that bit of information back to the GEPF, and in terms of communications, find some ways of just improving the systems that have been raised. Because if you're offline and members are trying, you made the comment. One of the reasons there are delays because the members' information is not up to date. That doesn't mean they haven't tried to it. The caller we had now, she said she's tried and she came in, and you make the comment that, so maybe you can just take that as a takeaway from our program today. And Cathy, I'm going to let you close off. And Ephraim, once again, thank you very much. I am going to send you a note, Ephraim, if you don't mind, just asking a few questions that maybe next week or when I handle the question time, I can give members just some updates of where maybe they could go. One, to either escalate, or two, if they're having problems, to do what you shared with us.
Thank you, Brian. Noted.
All right. So
Thank you, Cathy.
Sure. So what we'll do is that we'll email you the questions that we've received from our listeners. There's still quite a lot that people have also sent through via text message. So we'll send those through on email. And Brian, we can just run through what we can next week. Maybe just do it, collectively as the key questions that people still wanted answers to. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Ephraim. So on that note then, that's where we'll wrap it up in as far as Talking Finance is concerned. We're going to continue with the show shortly.
SAFM's Meeting Point invites you to join Koketso Sachane for a roundtable dialogue on the crime and gangsterism plaguing the Cape Flats. Join us at the SABC1's M1 studios in Cape Town, where Koketso, together with guests, unpack the crisis and asks how we can make our communities safer. Tune in to the Meeting Point with Koketso Sachane on Wednesday, the 8th of October, as we unpack this critical conversation. To be part of the studio audience, email info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Mzansi, have you bought your Powerball ticket for the mind-blowing 120 million rand estimated jackpot this Tuesday? Don't delay. Play Powerball for an estimated 120 million rand jackpot today for your chance at winning the big millions. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD Panda Pusha Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, we continue the conversation on the Talking Point. You're listening to the final hour of the show. We're with you until midday. So we are still watching the proceedings coming out of Parliament, the ad hoc committee's inquiry into the allegations made by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi around political interference within the SAPS, and politicians and high senior officials of the SAPS who are allegedly in cahoots with criminal cartels. So as things stand, that inquiry adjourned earlier this morning for a proper statement to be deposed before Parliament in as far as the evidence of the witness is concerned. There was a debate around the procedural correctness of the supplementary affidavit that had been made available by Advocate Arendse on behalf of Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. That statement was very much in line with what he had put before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, and so it was termed as a supplementary statement. That, of course, was something that was fought against by the EFF leader, Julius Malema, who said that the committee is not a subcommittee of the Madlanga Commission, and therefore it needs its own statement given by the evidence by the witness under oath that is not in any way linked to the Madlanga Commission, that it should have its own independent standing within the ad hoc committee. So it is an administrative issue that it seems they have been trying to work on and correct in the meantime. So the work of that inquiry is still adjourned. We can see a lot of the MPs are just mulling around the chambers, waiting then for the way forward in as far as what happens next where this inquiry is concerned. And not a great start for the work of the ad hoc committee. So while we wait on that, let's take you live to the inquiry that the Standing Committee on Public Accounts has launched into the Road Accident Fund. You remember some of the poor showings of the RAF before Parliament earlier on this year. Some of it started towards the end of last year, and it has all culminated in this inquiry then being set up to try and get to the bottom of what is really broken at the RAF. So let's take you live to that inquiry.
A claims process overreach and went above and beyond strengthening its processes. But in part, it's a response to the corruption embedded within how people kick off a claim process. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Thank you very much. Can we just get those answers dealt with in turn, and then we'll go on break?
Chair, thanks. I think I would want to speak to Honourable Mente. I think one of the questions you asked is why would somebody make an offer and then thereafter probably want to deal with it? Potentially because I have not seen the case, and I would want you to give me the case and we'll then give you a written response. We'll investigate what's going on there and provide you a written response. But potentially sometimes people might make offers that they're not supposed to make, and if they are found fundamentally to be problematic in law, then they might have to be dealt with in a court of law. But I am not sure of the specifics of what you have there. Can you indulge us to have a look at it, and then we will put in writing exactly what could have transpired there, because I don't want to make assertions, and I'm not sure what could have been the fundamental fight the RAF is having with that particular claim. But we will Chair, look at it and respond in writing to the committee and explain what could have transpired in that particular claim. I think I wanted to deal with that. Maybe Mr. Mohlahlana, I think there were a few questions around the call center and why did we reach to everybody else and so on. I think Mr. Mohlahlana will tackle those.
Through you, thank you, Chair. Firstly, to Mr. Isaac, nothing is hunky-dory at RAF. I think that is a fact. But number two, the establishment of the contact center was an admission that we're dealing with decades-old problems. We have claims which are even more than 10 years old. Now, with us calling all the claimants, it was an attempt to say we're sitting with these claims, which are an indication of our liability. We have to do something about that. That is why we're not discriminatory on who we're calling. But these are some of the dispositions that we picked up. We are not able to reach at least 38% of the claimants, Chair, I must say that. Part of the reason is that they've changed numbers. The service providers, if you don't use the number for more than 6 months, is given to someone else. It's been a struggle for us to reach those claimants. But we did not stop there. We are making use of tracing agents to say, how can we reach you? Because the last number that we had was this number. Up until we have spoken to you, we will not be able to assist you because we don't know if you are even still alive for that matter. So the contact center, yes, was established. It's just under 2 years. We have had more than 1 million interactions through that platform. But we are now in a better position to understand who's calling us and why are they calling us. In the past, Chair, we had a very small contact center manned by very few warm bodies. We could not even tell if we're dealing with repeat calls, let alone the total number of queries we're dealing with. Where we are right now, we know exactly who we're dealing with, direct vis-a-vis the plaintiff attorneys. We also understand why some of the claims are not moving because of the issue of the outstanding documents. So through the contact center, we'll call and say, Mr. Isaac, we are still awaiting a medical report, which your attorney hasn't finished out yet. It will be impossible for us to progress further than that. But we do have instances where the reports were submitted, but the whole claim had to be investigated because of suspicion of other, corrupt practices that the DM also alluded to. So it's a function of many variables, but to your point, we are reaching more of our claimants than we ever did in the history of the fund. We are also, as I've indicated earlier on, digitally reaching out to our claimants through WhatsApp, through SMS, through SSD. So the mode of communication has improved to the point where we can, comfortably say that we have a better idea of where the backlog is and how to eliminate that. So I wanted just to make that point, but I'll be covering that when I talk to the queries management, because that's why we go into details in terms of what channel are we using and what are we getting out of that, to make sure that we also use that as an opportunity to educate the public about the claims process in its entirety. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, if I can comment on some of the questions that has been raised. For Honourable Member Mohlahlana, he had asked the question about the 60 days to object, the date stamp. How are we using it, or why did we use that date, the stamp of the post office? It is in the standard operating procedure that governs us on which date we need to use in respect of the lodgement date. So that would cover your question. To answer Honourable Beasley with regards to the 60 days and whether it deems the matter valid in law. So what would happen is, if we do not object to the claim within 60 days, the claim will be deemed valid in terms of that substantial compliance has been met and a valid claim has been lodged. It does not determine liability. That is still something that gets determined at our merits, in our merits department. We are a fault-based system, and therefore, firstly, fault needs to be determined before we move on to investigate the quantum of a claim. A question was regarding the post. So, Madam Mente Nkuna, what would happen is that on a weekly basis, we've got a document management department where part of the duties and responsibilities are to collect post at the post office. Over the past few years, there has been a decline in how we receive our mail from the post office, and it is something that has been articulated and ventilated in a number of meetings that we've had with regards to...
All right, so we'll pause it there with that SCOPA inquiry into the Road Accident Fund. It's 11:30. Here are your latest news headlines.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines, Parliament's ad hoc committee's evidence leader, Advocate Norman Arendse, says that the country has been battling to curb corruption for many years. The case of businessman Vusumuzi Cathy Mohlahlana and 4 others has been postponed to the 11th of next month to allow the National Prosecuting Authority to add charges. And meanwhile, the Commission says regardless of the residents' illegal occupation, a court order is still required for any eviction or demolition of their homes. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Gordon Ramsay is back, and your favorite kitchen disasters are still somehow in business. New season, same confused chefs, terrifying walk-ins, and enough grease to fry your Wi-Fi. Watch as Gordon tries to fix the unfixable with nothing but sheer rage, British sarcasm, and an iron stomach. Kitchen Nightmares Season 8, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. on S3. Come for the food, stay for the emotional damage.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga.
You were giving us the positives of South Africa.
I was sharing about how in some indicators, South Africa performs at a world-class level with some of the best countries in the world. So I had mentioned one of them was in terms of logistics competence. Another one where South Africa does really well is the transparency indicator. So this is where we look at how transparent governments are in terms of their public procurement, policy making, laws and data, or budget information.
Dinesh Naidu, who's the Director of Knowledge at the Chandler Institute of Governance.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Mzansi, have you bought your Powerball ticket for the mind-blowing 120 million rand estimated jackpot this Tuesday? Don't delay. Play Powerball for an estimated 120 million rand jackpot for today for your chance at winning the big millions. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529 hash for USSD. Panda Pusha Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, you're listening to The Talking Point. So, unfortunately, it's become a little bit of musical chairs for the show this morning because we were going to be bringing you that inquiry by the ad hoc committee into the allegations made by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. It's continuing with its adjournment currently. So we have then been watching the Scopa inquiry into the Road Accident Fund. Let's take you back into the room before we continue with the rest of the show.
Claim, or the victim cannot claim against the Road Accident Fund. If a valid claim has been lodged within the specified time period, which is 2 years or 3 years, they are then able, the claim needs to be processed within a period of up to 5 years. Okay. So a claim can be registered 2 months from date of accident if all the necessary documentation has been obtained for a claim to be registered.
Which is, so in other words, it can be anything from basically up to 7 years, basically, or thereabouts, depending on when the accident happened and when the thing. So I could lodge a claim on month 23 of that 2-year period for a hit and run. There is then another, how many years before it? 3 years, right? Okay, no, I get you. So there are 2 prescriptions. There is a deadline for you to submit a claim. Then there is a deadline for when the RAF is expected to pay. If nothing happens in that period, sorry for you, you came too late. That sort of thing. So there are 2. Okay, thank you very much. I get it. But please continue.
But I think the point you make of sorry for you, normally then it's like we say in the presentation, then it's interrupted by a summon. Okay.
Sorry, there were other questions. So, for instance, I did ask about the direct claims process. Was it ever? Let me put it to you this way. I'm trying to get at this, okay? So, in your story that you've told, and I don't mean story in a bad way, basically how you've narrated the issues, right? It appears that a decision was taken to reach out, as Mr. Mkabela has said, to reach out to people going back quite a long time so that you can basically work through all of the claims. Something must have kicked it off. You know what I mean? Because you've just been explaining what prescribes when and that sort of thing. So it would appear, into Honorable Mohlahlana's question, that you've taken a conscious decision was it from March this year? Whenever that project began, right? Whatever, you'll give the date. You've taken a conscious decision to reach out to people going past all of these prescription periods that you're talking about. Or is that not so? I also am asking because during the course of the submissions that we got, we also understand that there was a directive to halt the direct claims process, right, for a number of years, which would have then created, I am assuming, a backlog of cases that are waiting because, well, it's halted. Other people now don't know what to do, and I'm assuming they then go to attorneys, whatever the case is. So that's why I asked the question. I just want to know what triggered the decision to try and clear a backlog going back years.
So, Chair, I think
There are 2 questions, by the way. Yeah. What triggered that decision? The second is a very direct question. Is it true that the direct claims process was ever halted or suspended, and how long was it for?
So the trigger, Chair, of looking for documents, and probably one would then want to marry this when we speak to the RAF1 form. So you ordinarily would have claims in the RAF that were submitted on time. And then after they were submitted, so let's talk about represented claims, they would have been interrupted by the prescription by someone. And then it stays there. And there's a lot of claims that people will bring documents and they'll try to settle. We must mention that because it happens. It must not be the fact that we're saying that people don't bring documents. But there are people that will bring documents and ask for settlements to be done. But there's a chunk of claims that are sitting where a form was submitted and nothing was submitted to the RAF to substantiate the ability of the fund to assess and make an offer on that claim. Now, the reach out process to say, and I remember one of the campaigns, I think it was named Bring Your Documents to the RAF, because essentially we were saying, we've got this much backlog, we want to get rid of the backlog, and when you do an assessment to try and get rid of the backlog, you realize that if I want to settle this claim, actually I have an example, Chair, where we actually wrote letters to, I think to the point of honorable mentor around loss of supports. You know, when you deal with a loss of support, it's because somebody has passed on. And therefore, you'd want to deal with those claims quicker, or at least if you can. And there was a project that was run to try and address loss of support claims. And letters, specific letters were written to particular attorneys to say, you've got this claim within the RAF, and we identified it as a loss of support. We want to settle this claim. These are the documents that are missing for this claim. This thing has been sitting in the system for quite a while. Can you give us these documents that we can make you an offer? In my recollection, Chair, there was less, or rather the responses were not as we thought, because we thought people would jump to their opportunity to bring documents. So the trigger is to deal with the backlog, and I must just say, is to say there are so many claims that are sitting in the ecosystem. I mean, some of them go far backwards, Chair, and I must say, way back. And the trigger was to say, we need to get these things out of the system. So we need to then, you need to make a test to say, did this claim prescribe? Because if the claim is prescribed, there's particular process that must be dealt with to make sure that the claim that is not in the system anymore. Is the claim settlable even though it's old in the system, it has not prescribed? Are we able to settle it? And this is when the call center then reached to people to say, give us the documents because your claim has been in the system for quite a while and we want to settle that claim. So essentially that campaign, Chair, was based on the fact that we are dealing with the backlog. And I think going forward, we are looking at a project that seeks to get rid of the backlog so that we get rid of the old claims that are sitting in the system. So essentially that's what, and these exercises, Chair, are also not done only at the call center, but various regional offices would be reaching out to try and get claims settled. And to settle a claim, you need particular documents of claims that would have been sitting in the system for quite a while. So that's the trigger that caused that.
The direct claims process.
Chair, I don't recall and I'm not saying it's not existing, I honestly don't recall a directive that stopped the direct claims. But I must say that when we deal with the RAF one, we'll show the impact of the RAF one form, like you had asked in the question, that we must show that impact. But I don't recall it. If it's there, Chair, I don't recall it, where there was a directive to say the direct claims process must be stopped. And again, I will check with my colleagues or check if there was a directive like that. And if it's there, Chair, I'll come back and consider and say that directive was there.
Okay, so something happened between 2019 and 2022. There was a period when things couldn't be processed. So the reason I keep circling this issue of the backlog together with this question is that in my mind, they are not unrelated, right? And we need to then know for the Secretariat what further questions to ask, because we invited submissions. We got a fairly substantive, at least a clear submission that from 2019, I'm looking at it, so from 2019 October until 2022 December, what happened in that period? The person might have misconceived it, what it is. Can you explain what that issue was?
Thanks, Chair. What I recall was that sometime in 2020, I think around about December, if I'm not mistaken, there was a decision to say that RAF must process all the direct claims And that decision, I think it was taken just before the introduction of the RAF 1. The objective, I think, of that decision was to say that we've got all of these claims that are sitting on the system which are not being settled and they lack documentation. Now we want to introduce a new form that says that when you bring in your documents, you need to make sure that then you've got all the required documents so that then we can be able to process that claim. So the one that I recall, I think it was that decision. As a result, I think there was a project that was established to make sure that then it deals with the settlement of those direct claims. I was working with that particular project.
Right. No, I mean, we'll work through it at another time, right? But it would appear that there was some change in procedure. It halted the processing of direct claims for a period. And then that's why I'm linking these two. But we can deal with that at a later stage, maybe when we've dealt with RAF 1 form. What I need to ask is, you said, Mr. Mkabel, that you used to have a tiny call center. When was that, and how many people did it have at the time?
Thank you, Chair. We established the current contact center, Chair, under 2 years ago. On the 9th of October 2023, that was the beginning of the current contact center as we have it. Prior to that, for many, many years, RAF has always had a call center department, which was not fully resourced to deal with the vast number of claims that we're dealing with today. It was out of that realization that we needed to change that part. But also, one of our outcomes is to ensure that we are claimant focused.
No, don't worry.
Yes.
I just want to know the raw facts. I mean, this is not a trick question at all. I just want to get my notes. So there was a call center before. Can you approximate the number of people that it had?
I would say about 34 agents in that contact center, yes.
So there was one call center nationally,
yes,
with about 34 agents.
Approximately, yes.
Yes, and then you looked at your operational environment and you decided to expand it. To how many?
Okay, we realized that we needed to beef up the capacity for us to address, amongst others, the issue of backlog, etc. Because we also realized that our claims handlers were bogged down with a lot of queries, instead of them focusing on the core business of assisting to settle those claims. We then participated in a contract driven through the Department of Labor.
All right, so we're going to come out of that SCOPA inquiry into the Road Accident Fund. As you can hear, very important questions around how claims are managed by the RAF and what leads then to some of the difficulties, particularly for claimants, right, who some wait for years and years on end. Being sent from pillar to post without a clear way forward in as far as when they can expect their compensation. Yeah, it's been a busy morning, and certainly I think part of that will be carried into the afternoon. We do apologize for the musical chairs, but yeah, some of it was out of our hands. That inquiry of the ad hoc committee has still yet not reconvened. We're still waiting for them to come back into the chambers and then give direction in terms of where things are going to go from here on. Will Ntandla Mkhwanazi continue to give evidence today? Will it be rescheduled, perhaps to start again tomorrow or on another date? Well, we don't know the answers to those questions now. Only the chairperson of the committee, Mr. Soviet Lekhanyani, can give those answers once it continues to sit. So on that note, this is where we leave it on the talking point. Up next is the update at noon. That will be coming up at 12 o'clock. But first, the book reading.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
EFC is live this Thursday. The man of the people, Delete Westason,
if you're inside here and you give up, then you're not supposed to be inside here.
steps up to challenge the Zambian champion, Ken Sekeletu, for his interim EFC featherweight title.
This is the moment I've been waiting for. This is the moment I've been training for, and this is the moment why I came to South Africa.
EFC 128, live from the world's sports betting arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
This October month, SFM joins the world in breast cancer awareness. We bring you conversations that highlight the importance of early detection, survivor stories that inspire hope, and expert advice that could save lives. Together, let's spread awareness and support the fight against breast cancer. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised. SFM presents another episode of the book Boardroom Dancing by Nolita Fakude, read by Vuyokazi Ted.
Getting serious. Academically, it took me a while to find my footing. With my plans to become a teacher, I entered Forte as a Bachelor of Pedagogic student in the commerce stream. Despite having a good head for the ideas behind business economics, the numbers themselves did not speak to me. And I failed accounting 3 times in my first 2 years. Worried that I would never graduate, I returned to my original interest in social work, switching to a BA in psychology at the end of my second year. My second year was also when I met Presto Fakude, my future husband. Originally from Guatemala in Springs, Presto was a handsome and smart postgrad doing an honors degree in chemistry. At 27, he was 8 years my senior and had worked in the real world, and his maturity appealed to me. We dated nearly 3 years before marrying in 1986, after he finished his Master of Science degree in chemistry. My mother was extremely bothered by my marriage to an older man who had already 2 degrees and was from Joburg to boot. The negative connotations of the big city speaking for themselves in her mind. She still saw me as a child, and she felt she had not fully prepared me for this stage of life. She agreed to my marriage on the condition that we would not start a family until I had completed my first degree, which she was still funding. As a woman, you need to have a degree certificate before considering a marriage certificate, she insisted. Rightly, as I would agree. My mother's concern for my independence as a woman was well-founded, although at the time, I probably did not realize just how valid it was. That said, I was not completely ignorant. Having taken a temporary job in the child maintenance office at the magistrate's office in Zwelicha, King Williamstown during my second year December holidays, I spent a month watching women coming to collect court-ordered maintenance payments from the fathers of their children. Every morning, I would arrive to a long queue of mothers. One by one, they supplied their details to me. Going through the daily list, all too often, I found myself saying things like, "Sorry, your husband didn't pay," or "Your husband is no longer working there." The women's faces would crumple with defeat and anxiety. Often they asked where the man in question had gone, but of course I didn't know. Or they confided, "This is the 2nd month he hasn't paid. I don't know what to do." Their desperation was palpable. I would try to console them and answer their questions, but there was nothing I could really do. At some point, my supervisor admonished me, saying I was taking too long with the ladies and that I should just tell them the money was not there and move on. I remember an incident when a particular lady came twice in 1 week. Recognizing her from a few days before, I asked if there had been a problem with her payment. No, I've got 2 kids. This one is for my other child from a different father," she explained. because each company's maintenance payments, often garnished from wages, were paid out on a particular day of the week. Government on Mondays, private companies on Tuesdays. This sort of thing was entirely plausible. But in that moment, I was struck by the indignity of the situation and felt two things very strongly. One, a fierce conviction that I must never allow myself to be put in such a position. And two, anger at all the men who did not pay maintenance for their own children. The frequency of non-payment struck me as a form of abuse, that you could separate from someone, but that person could still exert control over you through this maintenance grant was horrific to me. The whole experience highlighted the necessity of financial independence, not only for practical reasons, but also to maintain one's dignity in the world. The other thing I learned at this job was that when you are on the other side of the counter from someone who is vulnerable, because they are in financial or emotional distress, what a simple but important act of kindness it is to pay the person the respect of being heard or listened to. I didn't care how long the queue was. I could never just say, "Next, move along," to a person who was already down. Notwithstanding the fact that I was only 1 year from completing my junior degree, I had been at Forte for 5 years and university policy dictated I move on. There were a lot of strikes at the time, and I think the administration was conscious of preventing students from lingering too long. Thus, in 1987, I transferred to the University of Transkei, UNITRA, in Umtata. Originally a branch of Forte, which was still run by a white administration. UNITRA had been an independent institution since 1977. It was a vibrant intellectual hub where black people were visibly in charge, with over 70% of UNITRA's academic staff hailing from the rest of the continent. The Vice-Chancellor, Professor Wiseman Kuhlu, who was the first African in South Africa to become a chartered accountant, ran the university with a clear Pan-African vision of developing black intellectuals who could hold their own anywhere in the world. Despite its location in the homelands, Umtata was an artsy yet cosmopolitan university town, where I found its vibrant social and political environment a breath of fresh air. Buzzing with black professionals and business people, it was a destination for Joburg and Soweto socialites when they wanted to go somewhere happening for a weekend, and it was a place where it felt like black people were visibly running their own lives. It was at UNITRA in 1988 that I completed my Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology, English and education, and also truly fell in love with learning. Unlike Forte, where an underlying tension infused a campus whose white administrators were not inclined to encourage students' freedom either academically or culturally, the atmosphere at UNITRA was one of openness. You could feel the lectures not only encouraged discussion, but even required that we held and articulated different views. Because we promised my mother that I would complete my degree before we had children, it became clear that after I was academically excluded from Forte, that I had to complete my degree elsewhere. As a result, during my first 2 years at UNITRA, I commuted back and forth between Umtata and Alice, where Presto had taken a lecturing post in chemistry at Forte. Going home on month ends, we spent our time within a circle of friends for whom frequent and lively philosophical discussions were the norm. Between debating the topics of the day at UNITRA and engaging with our group of friends in Alice, I began to notice that I held firmer views than others and that people listened to my perspective. My confidence, which had first emerged at Bethel College, grew to the point where I realized I actually enjoyed expressing myself and being listened to, and for the first time started to see myself as a possible leader. Meanwhile, my resolve around having a career also strengthened. I knew many women who had earned a degree before marrying, but then dropped out of the professional world. I felt increasingly sure that that would not be my path. I wanted to be out in the world, stimulated and challenged by a career, even if I did not yet know the shape it would take. In search of life experience. Having finished my BA at UNITRA, I returned to Forte in 1989 to complete an honors degree in psychology. It was my 4th year of marriage to Presto, and having made good on my promise to my mother to first complete my junior degree, we decided to start a family. I fell pregnant quickly, but I managed to finish my honors degree and apply to do a master's in clinical psychology at Rhodes University before my due date. My desire to become a clinical psychologist was largely inspired by one of my most dynamic lecturers at UNITRA, the amazingly bright and incisive thinker, Dr. Phumla Gobodo. Later, she would serve as a commissioner on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, TRC, and author numerous books, including A Human Being Died That Night, about her interviews with infamous apartheid assassin Eugene de Kock. Gobodo's approach wove African culture into traditional psychology and focused on practical applications to the issues that our communities and society faced at the time. She made the field appear a dazzling and fulfilling challenge, and I was thrilled by the idea of joining the likes of her ranks.
There was another episode of the book Boardroom Dancing by Nolita Fakude, read by Vuyokazi Tebe. The book is available online and in all leading bookstores countrywide. It is broadcast on SAFM at 11:45 Monday to Thursdays on The Talking Point. The book is produced for the station by Vovi Patala, read by Vuyokazi Tebe. Technical production, Wiseman Manele, Nanda Koza, and Tato Mapuru.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
It's just gone 12 o'clock on Tuesday, the 7th of October 2025. A very warm welcome to Updated Noon here on SAFM, leading the conversation. I'm Sakina Kamwendo. Coming up in the next hour.
I really have no confidence in him from what he did now. We must change him.
I have
to argue with us and argue with you in front of cameras, and you allow that.
I have restrained the senior counsel, honorable member.
Members of Parliament's ad hoc committee set up to investigate allegations around national security have taken issue with evidence leader advocate Norman Arendse.
I hereby confirm the release of the South Africans who were involved in the Flotilla initiative.
And the Department of International Relations and Cooperation have confirmed the safe arrival of flotilla activists in Jordan. Please share your views with us as well. 41391, that's the SMS line number. You can also write to us via X at SABC News_radio, or you can send us a WhatsApp voice note on 082-692-3909. Well, these and more stories coming up on this Tuesday edition of Updated Noon. First, though, here's your latest news with Onde Lambana.
Thank you, Sakina. On the top stories, committee investigating Mkwanazi's allegations adjourns and Indonesia ends search at Al Khazini boarding school. For SFM News, I am Onde Lambana, and a very good day. Parliament's ad hoc committee's evidence leader, advocate Norman Arendse, says that the country has been battling to curb corruption for many years. The committee was established to probe allegations including criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference in the criminal justice system. KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi made the allegations. Arendse says it is important for the committee to safeguard the integrity of the country's institutions.
Ultimately,
This committee's task is not merely to conduct an investigation. It must safeguard the integrity of our institutions, to restore public confidence and trust, and to uphold the principles of justice and the rule of law, which is foundational to our Constitution.
The National Prosecuting Authority has confirmed that businessman Cathy Mohlahlana intends to appeal the decision of the Alexandra Magistrates Court in Johannesburg to deny him bail. Mohlahlana was denied bail last month after he failed to convince the court that he was neither a flight risk and nor a danger to society. Mohlahlana and 4 others made a brief court appearance, and the matter was postponed to the 11th of next month to allow the NPA to centralize charges from 2 other separate matters. They are accused of orchestrating the failed assassination of Mohlahlana's former partner, socialite Tebogo Tobejane, in October 2023. NPA spokesperson Pindim Jonondwane says they will oppose the application.
We can confirm as the NPA that we received their motion. He intends to appeal the decision of the Alexandra Magistrates Court that denied him bail. And furthermore, as the state, we can indicate that we are in the process of preparing ourselves to oppose his application. We believe that this court was not misdirected, whether in law or factually. We'll be opposing his application. However, we are still awaiting a date for the set down of that hearing.
Johannesburg City Power believes it's unfair that the High Court in the city has ruled that it has to rebuild houses that has denied demolishing in the Alexandra Township in August this year. The South African Human Rights Commission brought the case on behalf of the 27 affected community members. This after the power utility reportedly demolished households without a court order. City Power says it discovered that the structures were built on its electricity servitude, which hindered their operation during a prolonged power outage in the area. City Power's spokesperson is Isaac Mangeda, who says they are pinning their hopes on a mediation process.
So the community itself, not City Power, demolished those houses to ensure that they allow City Power access to deal with the repairs and restore electricity, which we have done. But we were surprised that the Human Rights Commission decided to basically take this matter to the courts and tried to force the courts to rule that City Power should rebuild some of the structures. And I think it is really unfair, but we are hoping that the mediation process that was also initiated by the courts can also be able to maybe shine even the light on the problem that we are facing as City Power.
But while the Commission says regardless of the residents' illegal occupation, a court order is still required for any eviction or demolition of their homes, Khululiwe Sithole is the Commission's Gauteng senior legal officer.
3 households of the 9 were demolished and the other were not demolished. So, which explains the 2 part of the application that the Commission brought to court. The first part was to ask for the restoration of those that were demolished, including the restoration of the materials. And the second part of the application was to ask for an interdict, which is essentially an order stopping the city from doing any further demolition. And the right to not have your home demolished, it comes straight from Section 26(3) of the Constitution. And over the years, we've had court rulings that explain that you can't demolish without a court order.
Indonesian search and rescue teams have officially ended the recovery operation at the Al Khazini boarding school. The school building collapsed early last week, killing more than 60 learners. The BBC's Memi Swebi has the details.
Hundreds of students, most of them teenage boys, had gathered for prayers at the school in East Java when it collapsed during construction work. Concrete was being poured to add an extra story. Indonesia's disaster mitigation agency called it the country's deadliest incident this year. The decision to end the rescue operation comes after 9 days of painstaking searches, listening for signs of life and challenging recovery efforts. At least 67 people are known to have died, but more human remains are still being identified.
Recapping the top story, Parliament's ad hoc committee's evidence leader, Advocate Norman Arendse, says that the country has been battling to curb corruption for many years. Arendse says it is important for the committee to safeguard the integrity of the country's institutions. I'm Wandilambara for SFM News Headlines at 12:30.
Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m. Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo.
Thanks, Ondela. Good afternoon, everybody. It's 7 minutes after 12. Thank you so much for tuning in to Update at Noon. Much anticipated appearance of the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, before Parliament's ad hoc committee that's set up to investigate some of the explosive allegations that were made by Mkhwanazi about threats to national security. And I can tell you it got off to a very rocky start. If you were on Cathy's show listening in earlier, you would have heard, and they have still not come back. We also lost the visuals there, so I can't actually tell you what's happening. But the good news is we have our reporter Zelene Merrington sitting in, so we'll check in with her in a short while to find out what the latest is. And also, if you missed it, we'll play back parts of that so that we bring you up to speed. And then some of the other stories that we're watching this afternoon, the JSC, they have begun the October leg of interviews to fill judicial vacancies in various superior courts, and they kicked off this morning with the interviewing of 7 candidates for 2 spots on the Constitutional Court bench. And we'll speak to Sabahle about how that process is proceeding. The Department of International Relations and Cooperation has confirmed that South African activists who were detained in Israel last week will be released this morning. Can tell you it has happened. They have arrived in Jordan, and we will obviously try and speak to our correspondent just to give us the latest there with regard to the activists and their arrival in Jordan. Also today, COSATU in the Western Cape are marching to the provincial parliament to hand over a memorandum to the Premier about saving jobs. And we're also keeping an eye on other court cases, notably the case against businessman Vusmuzi Matlala and 4 others in the Alexandra Magistrates Court. So those some of the stories that will bring you updates on.
We have different languages and cultures, but what we have in common is that we all want a dignified funeral and for our loved ones not to worry about money when the time comes. Trust Clientele to provide you with affordable funeral cover that will pay out within 24 hours. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's SAFM to 48031. SMS now. Clientele Life is a licensed life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates, terms and conditions apply.
Great news, travelers! FlySafair is now flying between Cape Town and Hoedspruit 3 times a week. So, whether you want to chase the Big 5 in Kruger, soak up the views at God's Window, or wind through the beautiful panorama route, Hoedspruit is the perfect launchpad to some of SA's amazing natural treasures. Ready to go from coastlines to canyons in just a few clicks? Book flights now at flysafair.co.za from just 1,570 Rand. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
Sakina Kamwendo on SAFM.
10 minutes after 12. Now, Parliament's ad hoc committee set up to investigate allegations around national security adjourned earlier today for a short while, or at least it was supposed to be a short while, in order to sort out issues that were raised around the statement of the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Members of the committee took issue with the evidence leader, Advocate Norman Arendse, senior counsel, calling Mkhwanazi's statement a supplementary statement to the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry statement that was submitted to that committee. And the committee was set up to investigate the wide-ranging claims of criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference within the criminal justice system that were made by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, and this was during a press briefing. Now, meanwhile, EFF leader Julius Malema has then raised firm objection to Parliament's ad hoc committee proceeding without a formal statement from General Mkhwanazi. Malema called the move unconstitutional and fundamentally wrong.
I don't understand on which basis do you want General Mkhwanazi to take an oath? Because before us, we have no statement of General Mkhwanazi. We have a supplementary statement. Supplementing what? Because he must first depose to us a statement, and if there is anything to be supplemented, it should be done so. The statement we have is a statement disposed to the Commission. We have said to this legal team here, time and again, that we are not a junior committee of the Commission. There is no statement of General Mkhwanazi before us. There is a statement of General Mkhwanazi to the Commission. And therefore, in the absence of his statement to the ad hoc committee of Parliament, on which basis do you want him to take an oath? You will know, Chair, that a supplementary statement should be supplementing the original affidavit, if you wish to say so. There is no such. And therefore, General Mkhwanazi is not proper before us. And this legal team has failed us because in the deliberation, we made it very clear, if colleagues are honest with each other, we repeatedly said, we cannot use the statement of the Commission. We are not a junior of the Commission. We have nothing to do with what the Commission is doing. We are a parliament, a committee of Parliament. Now you want to use a material that is being used and sourced by a commission established by the executive in this separate arm of the state. It is wrong, it is unconstitutional. We have to do things properly. And the proper way is, there must be an original statement to us as an ad hoc committee, and if they so wish to be a supplementary statement, let it be.
That was EFF leader Julius Malema. Members of Parliament from the Umkhonto weSizwe Party, the ANC and the Inkatha Freedom Party further condemned the use of the supplementary affidavit. The MPs maintained that it must be asserted that the Parliamentary Ad hoc Committee is not junior to the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry.
It's really embarrassing, I must say, that after we agreed that we are not a subcommittee of the Madlanga Commission, and now we are told that there's a supplementary thank you, Chair, not because you are talking to someone there, that we have to have a cut and paste is not acceptable as well. I mean, we were told that there was a consultation with the Provincial Commissioner General Mkhwanazi. We are going to be having a different view, here at the ad hoc committee, not what we are told today by the senior counsel. And I think that I will support my colleague on that. Perhaps it will be proper that General Mkhwanazi is excused. Us as committee members discuss this matter, because really we are letting the country again down. It's like we don't know what we are doing. We know where we come from in this country. We had a case where somebody was sentenced without trial before standing before the judge. Today we are finding ourselves in this again, where we are told that the statement was done, the oath was taken in the Madlanga Commission. It's unacceptable.
Today, we find ourselves in a situation where we are being misled by the technical team or by the legal advisors of this ad hoc committee, because if you say we must rely on the statement of the Madlanga Commission, you are simply subverting the constitutional responsibility of Parliament in this regard. And let's avoid this thing of mentioning Madlanga. Madlanga is a decision of the executive, not a decision of Parliament. We are doing our own, we are initiating our own process here. So we're not going to do any copy and paste kind of work and said no, because this one has been done by Madlanga. Because if we are doing that, in future, we are going to be told that we can't investigate some of the issues here in the terms of reference because they were investigated by the Madlanga Commission.
The letter written to you, Honorable Chairperson, which is attached, which is part of Volume 1, actually reads, please see under cover hereof the witness statement of Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. It doesn't talk about a supplementary. But on the following page, the following page actually starts off by saying supplementary witness statement of General Mkhwanazi. So clearly there is a distortion here. So I think this needs to be corrected, but it cannot be corrected in front of the cameras, but we need to adjourn and then get these things corrected so that we can resume our job.
And various members of parliament are sitting on the ad hoc committee expressing their views. Now, for more on the latest, we are joined by SABC News reporter Zaline Merrington, who is watching these proceedings live for us. Zaline, good afternoon. I must tell you, we saw the beginning, and of course, after the adjournment, there was visuals for a little while, but then we lost it all. So can you just please bring us up to speed with what has happened in the meantime?
Good afternoon, Sakina. At this point, the committee is still behind closed doors, and that is why the live stream was also stopped. And I think for a brief second, maybe the chairperson, Mohlahlana, did not keep that in consideration when he asked everyone to leave, that actually proceedings are being streamed live. And I think that is why for a few seconds after he asked everyone to leave, that was still on. And then I think someone was alerted that, hey, the live stream must stop. It is actually quite significant, Sakina, because the committees of parliament aren't just stopped, aren't just closed willy-nilly. I want to use that phrase. The chairperson of a committee must in advance get permission to close a committee. And I also understand that the rules of parliament say that there must be a discussion in the open at first as to why a committee should be closed. But obviously, a committee of this public interest, I can't imagine unless there is a security or safety risk to someone that this committee would be closed. But as for, it's been over an hour that the committee is now meeting behind closed doors, and we are none the wiser of why the chairperson decided that this was the route to go or what is being discussed. From the early fiery discussions, as I suspect that's the sound that you were playing earlier for the context there, that MPs were unhappy about a supplementary statement given to this committee and not the original, an original statement. Because, as I'm just sitting here, Sakina, I'm thinking about last week. There was a question from the ANC chief whip, Ndumiseni Ntuli, who asked the evidence leader, Advocate Norman Arendse, SC, is this the same statement as was deposed to the Madlanga Commission? And he said the statement is not the same. It will be referenced, but it is not the same. And he did actually say we wanted to avoid duplication, so it is a different statement. And so I also understand why MPs are saying, why are you giving us the Madlanga statement and not the committee statement? Because, Sakina, MPs have for a while been very adamant to emphasize that the ad hoc committee and the Madlanga Commission are two entirely separate and different processes, also different arms of state. And they've really been at pains to want to establish that distinction, that we are not working with the commission is not working with us. We are not, as one of the MPs said this morning, we are not a subcommittee of the commission. So I'm assuming that is what the behind the closed doors meeting is all about. But I just want to repeat, it is not how it is supposed to be done.
And that's what I found curious as well, Zaline. And then, it was quite interesting how things then developed and ultimately almost snowballed because you had a moment there where once again it was the EFF's Julius Malema when the chairperson, Soviet Lekhanyane, wanted to engage General Mkhwanazi, who said, we can't engage him because right now we can't recognize him as a committee.
Yes, and again also warning about the processes and procedures of the committee. And for a moment there I thought, okay, because I think the chairperson he tries his best to accommodate everyone, and I think sometimes he pushes it a bit too far. But I think that he himself wants to be sure that the processes and the procedures that they follow won't be faulted next time, and in particular that they won't be vulnerable maybe to court action as well. So interesting. It was an interesting start to the committee. I mean, it's almost 1 o'clock and they've still not started with the work of the day. And I know that this committee, MPs on this committee, are extremely eager for this process to get underway. They actually have a deadline of the end of October that they were supposed to report back to the National Assembly, but the chairperson has on previous occasion indicated that they will most likely ask the speaker for an extension. The committee started early in September, but mainly because General Mkhonazi was engaged at the Madlanga Commission, and the committee desperately wanted him to be the first witness. They were a bit delayed, so they are running out of time, and I know that they are eager for this process to get underway. So I'm sure that we are also going to have a late first day of hearing testimony from General Mkhonazi today.
And that, of course, provided that, Zaleen, we don't see an upswell in the sentiment that was expressed by Julius Malema, who said he thinks that the evidence leader should be removed.
I want to say I doubt that will happen purely because of the time issue at hand. I think that they would, I think extreme caution would be exercised there, just from a time point of view. And I do think, this is actually a very political process going on here. So there will be fire and there will be brimstone. And I think maybe also that is why the chairperson is at pains to also always try and manage the situation. I want to believe that it is unlikely, Sakina, but we'll see after they open. Anything is possible in an environment like this.
Indeed, we shall, because what if the evidence leader decides to walk? That's just me, thinking out loud, given how long this is taking, Zaleen. This was meant to be a 15-minute recess, but as you say, well over an hour now. But Zaleen, let's send you back in there just to see what you can find out. Thank you so much for the update. Our SABC News reporter, Zaleen Merrington, in Parliament there watching those proceedings for us. As she says, closed session for now, so we literally do not know what's going on, but of course we'll wait and you'll be first to hear as soon as there are developments. But for a legal perspective on what we've seen thus far this morning, we joined on the line by legal expert Elton Hart, attorney at the University of Johannesburg's Law Clinic. Elton, thanks so much for your time. So what did you make of the explosive start to this morning's ad hoc committee proceedings, and also the concerns raised by the ad hoc committee members around the statement of the police commissioner?
No, indeed. I think what the MPs was raising was something of constitutional nature, and I think it was important that they raise it, because when one looks at a supplementary affidavit normally supplements a founding affidavit, which means that maybe there's new facts that came to light after the founding affidavit was made, or there's some issues that need to be clarified. And they were well within the right to say that this supporting affidavit, what is it supporting or supplementing? And because that is not before them, they cannot have an informed session where they would probe and ask the right questions. And then one needs to also ask that supplementary affidavit, when it was deposed to, was it deposed to in or under the auspices of the Madlanga Commission, or was it deposed to for the terms of reference for what the parliamentary subcommittee is going to do? And I think that is where one needs to make that clear distinction, to say that an affidavit is deposed for the terms of reference that was under Madlanga or Parliament, and then say, is this affidavit going to aid us in what we have to do within our constitutional framework that we work in?
Elton, what would have been the legal implications had the ad hoc committee decided to carry on using that supplementary statement?
Then it would mean basically that they would work on evidence that was already laid at the Mohlahlana Commission and would have to probe and ask questions based on what is on record at the Mohlahlana Commission. And you might not get a full picture of what really transpired or what really happened. And you might not have maybe a holistic picture of what you are about to do, and also to not sort of have now step into the terrain of what the Mohlahlana Commission was said to do, which is something that was from the executive arm of government, and what is the role and duty of Parliament. And we know that the principle of separation of powers wants us to keep these two apart, but they need to be checks and balances for one for the other. And just not to muddy that water, if they had to continue, they might have muddied the water to step into the different terrains of the executive or Parliament.
Should the senior counsel not have known and picked up on the sentiments that you and the members of Parliament have just expressed?
They should have, and I think the EFF leader was very clear. It's not the first time that they're deliberating on this issue. He said they made the legal representatives aware of this way before the sitting started, and I think maybe they ignored them, and hence we sit where we're sitting. But they made it clear, and there was nothing from the evidence leader's side to suggest that this is the first time that they're hearing of this objection that is made by the EFF, MK, and I think the DA also jumped in there.
So as things stand right now, what would the process then be to rectify what was irregular this morning?
So obviously one has to look at what is the terms of reference, what is the duties, the scope of the subcommittee for the justice cluster, where the police is now part of that subcommittee there. What is their scope? What oversight role do they play over the police ministry? And what are they probing? Because I know the terms of reference for the Mohlahlana Commission and the scope and role of the subcommittee in terms of the justice for police specifically. That one stems from the Constitution. There's a constitutional duty and things that they need to do on their oversight role. And I think that is different from what Mohlahlana needs to do. And I think they need to most probably depose a fresh affidavit that is fit for the purposes of the parliamentary work that needs to go into the subcommittee, as opposed to what the Mohlahlana Commission needs to do.
And how long would that take, more or less, given what they already have and what they've established so far?
I think it shouldn't take long, because remember, he deposed to an affidavit for Mohlahlana. But obviously, you can use that founding affidavit that he used for the Mohlahlana when the evidence leaders consulted with him. They can work with that thing as a framework and either add or trim out what they don't need, what is irrelevant for the work that Parliament needs to do. And maybe if there's things that's maybe omitted from the affidavit that was given to Mohlahlana in terms of the terms of reference for the Mohlahlana Commission, then they can just add it so that they can actually address the work that needs to be done by this subcommittee. So I think it shouldn't take too long, because you've got seasoned veterans there. Advocate Arendse, who's a seasoned veteran, so they should be able to get through this fairly quickly and actually give the relevant MPs copies of the affidavit and then start the process. I think they can maybe still start this afternoon. Obviously, it would not be difficult for them to also get a commissioner to get the affidavit being deposed in front of a commissioner of votes.
Well, thanks so much for that legal perspective. That was Elton Hart. He is a legal expert and attorney at the University of Johannesburg's Law Clinic. It brings us up to time for news headlines, and after that we'll get some political analysis from Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast. But first, here's Ondela Mvana with your headlines.
Thank you, Sakina. On the news headlines, Parliament's ad hoc committee is closed to deliberations. Members are now discussing the way forward after arguing that the committee should not be treated like a subcommittee of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. The National Prosecuting Authority has confirmed that businessman Cathy Mohlahlana intends to appeal the decision of the Alexandra Magistrates Court in Johannesburg to deny him bail. Mohlahlana was denied bail last month after he failed to convince the court that he was neither a flight risk and nor a danger to society. And the International Relations Department has confirmed the safe arrival of flotilla activists in Jordan. This after Israeli forces detained them in international waters while en route to deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m. Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo.
Thanks, Ondela. And just continuing with some analysis regarding what transpired earlier today as Parliament's ad hoc committee that's been set up to investigate allegations around national security had to adjourn, we were told, for a short while. It's been well over an hour now. And this, of course, to deliberate around issues in the statement of KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. So for a political perspective, we joined on the line now by Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast. Professor, thanks so much for your time. And what did you make of how things started today at the ad hoc committee?
So the framing of the argument of the EFF is about the procedure. It's not about the substance. So they're arguing that under normal circumstances, what should have happened is that they should have been given the statement which is different from the one that they pitched to a different platform. So their main line of argument that you can't, on the one hand, pull out a statement, then plug it in to a different context, because they say you can't reduce them into a subcommittee of that platform that had started already. But then the question that begs on my end is basically, what happens if he wants to advance the same line of argument? But yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting that they've argued that the whole process needs to be put on hold and that he needs to walk out of that forum so that they can argue about this matter. Yeah. I think lastly, again, I think they are sensing a danger from my standpoint that if this matter is not addressed, maybe the validity or the credibility of the findings might be in question. Yeah.
Legal expert Elton Hart, whom we just spoke to before the news, concurs that what was raised this morning was in fact legally sound in terms of the processes, but also the deposition of that particular statement with regard to the terms of reference for the ad hoc committee, which is slightly different from that of the Madlanga Commission.
Yes, of course. I think also they are trying to demarcate or to frame their scope. They don't want to come across as if there is some kind of a duplication here, or they're not being taken seriously, because you must remember one of the functions of the legislative institution, besides making laws, is to demand answerability from anyone in the country. So I think also they want to be taken seriously, you know. I think they're within their right to advance that argument.
And of course, all of this playing out in front of the public, given that this is being streamed. Zaline Merrington, our reporter, was explaining that there needs to be special circumstances for a parliamentary sitting to be behind closed doors, and not sure what happened this morning to warrant that. But, you know, it's all happening at the moment.
I'm walking on the fence on that score. I'll tell you why. Because in a democracy, we have to open up to these things so people can be well aware about what is happening. When we do things behind closed doors, then it begs a number of questions. So that's the problem. So I think it's good if these things are playing themselves out in the public discourse. I don't think that is a problem. I don't see any threat to the democracy that we have regarding what has happened. So I don't agree, in fact, that this should have happened in camera. I think it's good that it had happened in public. Because you see, it's like doing a mathematics. If you want the answer to be right, Sakina, the formula also has to be right. So the procedure has to be right. Yeah.
And with that said, though, isn't it embarrassing? It's an embarrassment the way things have panned out, given how much time this ad hoc committee has spent deliberating on the procedures, even going as far as looking at time allocations and the people who would be speaking. All of that was discussed, and yet we get off today and can't get any further for at least the morning part of these proceedings.
The worst part of it, I think, what they are avoiding is that if they are hasty, they rush into this, the findings will be vehemently questioned. That's the problem. So you have to be thorough. You have to be very thorough, in terms of the building blocks. So the first building block was not done, which is to share the statement, which is not framed along the same lines as the previous one. I think they have a point there, Sakina, as you indicated that there was a lawyer that you had spoken to earlier on. I think they have a point there. And personally, I don't have a problem with the fact that this matter has played itself out the way it has in public. I don't think that's a big deal.
All right. We'll continue watching. Thanks so much, political analyst Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast. He is with the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. And we'd love to hear your views as well. You can write to us. You can send us your voice notes. Let's hear your views and about how things actually got off to a rocky start this morning for Parliament's ad hoc committee. I think just as it was the case with the Madlanga Commission, great anticipation to hear from Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, and unfortunately we haven't yet done so given some of the discrepancies that have been raised by members of Parliament.
I don't love school. I don't love trying to learn like everyone else learns and falling behind when I don't understand. But I do love learning. I do love working to my own schedule and getting the support when I need extra help. I do love UCT Online High School because I do love my future. Apply online before 28 November.
SAFM's Meeting Point invites you to join Koketso Sachane for a roundtable dialogue on the crime and gangsterism plaguing the Cape Flats. Join us at the SABC1's M1 studios in Cape Town, where Koketso, together with guests, unpack the crisis and asks how we can make our communities safer. Tune in to the Meeting Point with Koketso Sachane on Wednesday, the 8th of October, as we unpack this critical conversation. To be part of the studio audience, email info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
The rand is trading at 17 rand 20 cents to the US dollar, 23 rand 10 to the pound sterling, and 20 rand 7 cents to the euro. The euro trading at $1.16 and the dollar's at 150 yen 81. In Brazil, 1 US dollar is trading at 5 real 31, Russia at 81 rubles 75, India 88 rupees 75, and in China, 1 US dollar is changing hands at 7 yuan 11. Markets in Asia were higher at closing bell. Japan's Nikkei ended flat. Hong Kong's Hang Seng still closed for a mid-autumn festival, and China's Shanghai Index will be closed from October the 1st until the 8th for the Golden Week holidays. India's markets, meanwhile, slightly firmer at the close of trade. Looking at the JSE, it's mixed at midday. The All-Share Index down 0.1% and is at 109,795. The Industrial 25 Index up 0.3%. Financial slightly higher. Top 10 Resources Index and the Precious Metals and Mining Index both down 1%. 1%. On the capital market, the yield on the R186 government bond is at 7.50%. Markets in Europe currently trading in a mix. Britain's FTSE 100 up 0.1%. The CAC 40 in France and Germany's DAX both trading flat. Looking at commodity prices, gold trading at $3,959 per fine ounce. Platinum's at $1,615 per ounce, while the price of Brent crude oil is at $65.18 a barrel.
Update at noon, midday to 1 p.m.
Now, the South African government has confirmed the safe arrival of the flotilla activists in Jordan. DIRCO, in a statement, has said that Ambassador Tselane Mokoena welcomed the group on behalf of the Republic. Minister Ronald Lamola has expressed deep gratitude to all stakeholders who ensured their safety. Now, the activists are expected to land at the OR Tambo International Airport tomorrow morning. Government has meanwhile dismissed false claims about funding their return, saying that the trip is financed by the families and solidarity groups, with DIRCO only facilitating diplomatically. Now, here's the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, confirming the safe arrival of the flotilla activists in Jordan.
Fellow South Africans, on behalf of the South African government, I hereby confirm the release of the South Africans who were involved in the flotilla initiative. Dr. Fatima Hendricks, Mandla Mandela, Reyes Mula, Caroline Shelva, Dr. Zahir Suma, Zukisa Wema. They were all involved in a noble cause for humanitarian aid for the people of Gaza. We continue to call for all fights to cease and for all bombardment of civilian infrastructure to stop. We also want to thank all those who participated in this initiative and also in the logistics of their safe return. Look forward for them to return to be with their loved ones and back into their own country.
So for more on these latest developments, we join on the line by Sunny Morgan from the Global Sumud Flotilla South Africa.